Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice seeing you all in the audience, and welcome to our City Council meeting, Library Board, Housing Authority Board, Community Services District, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. This is our regular meeting, and this is Thursday, December 4th, and it is now approximately 1 o'clock. So we will start with our flag salute, and Richard, would you lead us in that?
Sure. If you would please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
Cindy, will you call roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Hobart.
Here.
Councilmember Kite.
Here.
Councilmember Townsend.
Here.
Councilmember Wild.
Here.
And Mayor Smotrich.
Here. Well, before I start, I wanted to make one short little announcement as far as turning off your cell phones. So you can, if you would turn off your ringer, leave your cell phone on, and you can use your Facebook, you can use Twitter, you can do anything you want. Make sure that you tell people where you are, how wonderful our city is, and that they should come and see us. So,
Do it.
now you have that message. All right. We're going to have a few presentations today. And I know a few people have said, why do you have so many presentations? Because we are so proud of the people in our city and the people in our community surrounding our city. We are so fortunate to have our different commissions, and we like to introduce them, and that's what we've been doing for the last few weeks, and we will continue doing each commission at the next council meetings up through, I believe, April or May. So you'll get a chance to see our commission members, and the staff liaison is the person who introduces them. So we will start off with the presentation by Ted Weil, and he will be introducing Dr. Christopher Flores.
Yes, Dr. Flores, if you would come up, and I'll say a few words and comments as you're approaching the mic there. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Flores previously, who had talked about dementia, which of course is such a concern for those people in our valley that fit the demographics. And his approach and what is going on to make a valley dementia friendly and understand the sensitivity is terrific. And if I may, Dr. Flores, I'll merely mention that you're a certified family physician. He's on the staff of Eisenhower Medical Center and is vice chairman of the Continuing Medical Education Committee with California Academy of Family Physicians. He received his medical degree from UC Irvine and completed his residency in family medicine at UCLA, Kaiser program, attended Stanford as an undergraduate, and he practices full spectrum primary care, but special interest in brain health. Dr. Flores believes there are many opportunities to enhance the care and awareness of dementia, and I think that's the thrust of it. He works very closely with the Alzheimer's Association. Ann Gimbel, the regional director, is here in our audience today. Ann, you might want to stand up for a moment and be recognized. Thank you for being here. And with that, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the council for allowing me to speak here. I'm very, very pleased to be here and honored. As Ted said, I am a family physician, so I do a little bit of everything. I'm a general practice physician, but living here in the Valley, as we all do, we do have more than our share of retired folks and seniors, and so even in my practice, I have some very, very elderly patients. And so I deal with dementia a lot. In fact, I would say that Sometimes people say, well, shouldn't people with dementia be evaluated by a neurologist or a specialist or some sort of a psychologist? But in all honesty, I would say 99% of the care for dementia is being delivered by primary care, family physicians, internal medicine physicians. So I just want to briefly give you my opinion of the changing face of dementia. What I mean by the changing face is because of the aging of the population and medical advances that have allowed people to be healthier as we get older, we're starting to see a little bit difference in the way that people present with dementia or that people exhibit symptoms of dementia. And that's one of the reasons that we got together with this dementia-friendly Coachella Valley initiative that we are working with the Alzheimer's Association on. I would say that as a country and as a culture, we sort of have an outdated or antiquated view of dementia, perhaps. If I was to ask somebody in this room to give me a description of somebody with dementia, they would probably say, well, it's a very elderly, frail, sick person who maybe they're on oxygen and they can't walk, they're in a wheelchair, and their memory is gone, they can't recognize their family or their caregivers, and they probably honestly don't have much longer to live. I would say that's probably a pretty fair assessment of what a lot of people would say. A person's in a nursing home, or they're in a skilled nursing facility, or they're in assisted living. They can't be on their own. Well, there's a changing face of dementia. The people, like I said, are living longer, and because of good health practices and medical advances, people are physically pretty fit. And we're seeing 85, 90, 95-year-olds who are still out functional, driving and playing golf and all kinds of things. It's very wonderful. But unfortunately, the biggest risk factor for dementia is age. And as we get older, we will have more risk of dementia. And so I'll give you some celebrity examples of this changing face so that maybe you can resonate or understand what I'm talking about. Maybe some of you know Pat Summitt or have heard of Pat Summitt. She is a very, very famous college women's basketball coach, Tennessee Volunteers. She has dementia, and she's healthy physically. She's very, very dynamic. She's been a phenomenal coach for all her career. She still is out in public. She's been very, very honest about her dementia. She goes to basketball games. She still supports the team. She's involved in the community. Another example is Glenn Campbell. Perhaps you know Glenn Campbell, famous singer, country singer. He has dementia. About a year and a half ago, he was diagnosed with dementia, and yet he still played concerts because luckily his musical ability has been retained and is intact. And he's been very open also about his dementia. In fact, he has a movie out right now called I'll Be Me that's all about his battle and his journey with dementia. So we're starting to see people that are still very, very dynamic and still have a lot to offer, yet they are mentally disabled, we could say. Now, another example that I'll bring up just to kind of give a little bit different, maybe a more challenging, a little bit more uncomfortable presentation. You probably all have heard of the ex-owner of the LA Clippers, Mr. Sterling. Donald Sterling, I believe is his name. And he unfortunately had very public kind of meltdown, I guess you could call it, after he had a recording that he didn't know was going on, and it became public, and he ended up losing the Clippers in a very, very protracted public battle that probably most of us wouldn't have wanted to see. We're going to be seeing a lot more of these different faces of dementia coming at us. The population is aging, as you well know. We're very lucky to live in a beautiful resort community where we attract retired folks, and people come here to spend the last third of their lives, and we are going to be seeing a lot of different varieties of this type of presentation of dementia, not the person who's frail and in a nursing home and is maybe going quietly off into the night. So we need to learn to adapt, and that's why I wanted to come here, because as a city council, a city government, we are concerned about the quality of life in Rancho Mirage and the communities. We're concerned about public safety. We're concerned about our business community. And I think that there's a lot of areas where we can improve in all of those areas of government and of the community to address the needs of this changing face of dementia. So I'm not here to ask specifically for any one thing. I'm not here to ask for money or to ask for a grant or something, but I want to give you food for thought. And as you hear about more programs that are going on, I mean, I certainly do a lot of speaking with Eisenhower and with other agencies. I work with the Alzheimer's Association, as Councilman Weil mentioned. We have this dementia-friendly Coachella Valley initiative that's going on. You know, I would hope that you might attend some of the events, that you might consider supporting some of them in the future. We do have, we've started off this Dementia Cafe concept, which actually is not new in the world. In Europe and in the United Kingdom, Northern Europe, this is very, very common, and it's almost become very mainstream. But here in the U.S., as I said, we're in a little bit different phase of our knowledge and acceptance of dementia. And so it's a new concept, and I'm very proud that here in Rancho Mirage, we're kind of, you know, starting a trend that maybe will catch on throughout the state and throughout the nation. So we're, you know, very, very on the cutting edge of dealing with this. So you'll hear more about these dementia cafes. We will have other programs in sort of working with the movies that are coming out, for example. There's another movie that you might have heard about that's called Still Alice. It's about a actual PhD professor at a university that comes down with dementia at a young age. Julianne Moore is in it, and I think that she's going to be at the film festival, so we're hoping to have some sort of an event related to that. It's all about increasing awareness and trying to improve all of the different services and businesses and living opportunities that we have in our wonderful valley. So I thank you so much for your attention. I'll be happy to answer questions, or you know how to get a hold of me. If not, Councilman Weil will definitely give you my phone and email.
Thank you so much, Dr. Flores. Are there any comments or questions from the...
No, thank you very much, Dr. Flores. It is a concern in this valley, and we appreciate the work that you and the Alzheimer's Association are doing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming and filling us in on some of the misconceptions and misunderstandings of a perceived condition. It really is a nice feeling to know, you know, that we are not alone and that there are helpers out there that can be of assistance when needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda is a presentation by Britt Wilson, and he will be introducing our Historical Preservation Commission. And as they are all coming down in front, and I ask them all to face the audience so that they will be able to be seen by everyone, I will just give you a little bit of background about our Historic Preservation Commission. It was established in 2003 by a municipal ordinance, and it was to develop a program to provide a way to identify certain structures and sites which represent eras, events, or persons important in the city's culture, archaeological, social, economic, architectural, and or political history for the purpose of encouraging the preservation, improvement, and promotion of our city's treasured properties. The commission consists of 5 members: Carol Leibowitz, Thomas Oswald, Bob Berg, Ray Keller, and Robert Zafran. So if you'd all come down in front, Britt will meet with you, and okay, here you are.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and honorable members of the City Council. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to the audience and the viewers at home the City of Rancho Mirage's Historic Preservation Commission. Starting off with our chairwoman, Carol Leibowitz. She is the current chairwoman and has been a member of the commission since 2007. During that time, she has participated in recommending 30 different sites for historical designation within the city. She helped construct the criteria by which historic resources are judged, and she is the current chair, as I said, and she's been chair 3 other times in the past. Tom Ostwald, who is not here today, is our vice chair, and he's unique because he's lived in Rancho Mirage since 1983, but he's been on the commission since it was created in 2003. He's taken some architectural classes at University of Cal at Berkeley, spent many years in the fashion and property management business, And he had he's traveled all over the world with his late wife, looking at many historical structures as he possibly could with his wife's patience. Next, I will introduce to my immediate left Commissioner Robert Zafran. And Robert is in his first year as a commissioner. He's applied to serve on this since he and his wife moved to Rancho Mirage in 2007, and they live in a mid-century modern home. He is a member of several regional, national, and international architectural and cultural preservation organizations, and he frequently travels internationally with his wife, touring significant architectural homes, buildings, and preserved world cultural sites. He wants to expand the service and regional recognition and associations of the Historic Preservation Commission. And then next is Commissioner Ray Keller. And Ray is gentleman right next to Carol there. Ray has practiced architecture in Los Angeles for many years before realizing the benefits of coming to Rancho Mirage, which was to our advantage, obviously. In Los Angeles, he served as chairman of the local Los Angeles City Design Review Board in Brentwood and helped write and consulted on several community planning official documents. Ray worked with and was taught by several of the iconic architects central to the modernism movement in Southern California and is therefore also very appreciative of and familiar with the historic modernist movement and properties within Rancho Mirage. And last but not least, Commissioner Bob Berg, down there on my far left. He's a 10-year resident of Rancho Mirage in his first year of appointment as a commissioner. He's very grateful for the opportunity to serve. Bob's lifelong passion has been the study of architectural history and more specifically in residential architectural development as a function of our changing societal standards and manners of social interaction over the decades of our country's existence. Bob includes every possible opportunity to visit historic residential architecture in his extensive domestic and international travels. He hopes to be able to expand the recognition of Rancho Mirage's Historic Preservation Commission through cooperation with other local historical architectural preservation programs and institutions in our area. So with that, I'm going to, if it's all right with the council, I'd like to turn the mic over to our chairwoman. She may wish to say something about the annual event coming up in February and our speaker.
For the past few years, we've been having an annual event at the library, open to the public, Rancho Mirage residents, free of charge, and we'd like you to be there. This year, we're going to be featuring architect Frederick Fisher, who has been the architect on the Sunnylands Center and Garden development. And he also has done the latest addition to the Huntington Museum. He has done other projects in Philadelphia and other places in the country. So he's going to be speaking on Archibald Quincy Jones, who did the original architecture with Emmons of the Sunnylands Estate and of many other buildings. And by coincidence, I think by on purpose, Frederick Fisher's offices are in the former offices of A. Quincy Jones in Los Angeles. And I know it'll be a real treat for all of you who love modern architecture. So join us February 17th at 2 p.m. in the library. We also have David Bryant, the library director, here in the audience. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Britt, and thank you, commissioners, for coming and telling us what you do and letting us know some of your background. We know you're also accomplished, and so many of our commissioners are greatly accomplished, and we're so honored that they are serving our city. Thank you again. Okay. Our next presentation will be done by Mayor Pro Tem Dana Hobart, and he is going to be giving a proclamation with great honor to our Rancho Mirage High School Rattlers first year varsity teams. So they're all in the audience looking very handsome.
I don't know whether we invite them up or we
Sure.
should kind of call some kind of signals. Ready, set, hut, hut.
Okay.
If all of you, Coach Matthews, I see Ken Wagner is there as Coach Matthews. Is that, yeah. If you guys would all come up here, let me introduce you, and you can introduce yourselves, all the team, all of you. That's it, all 6 of you. Don't be reticent. Think of the game against Yucca Valley. Let me give a microphone down here to Coach. Let me give you this, and I'll ask you some questions, and you can introduce some of these fellows. I want you to know that the City Council is extremely proud of all of you. That's not one of your football players. That's Tashiana. Am I pronouncing that right? Tashiana? Tashiana Harvey. We'll get to you in a second. We're going to separate the two of you, the two groups of you. We're very excited that Rancho Mirage has got a football team, and while we commiserated with some of the events during the course of the year, as you did, there's one thing that we never lost track of, and that was you didn't have a senior among you. And that makes a major difference in all sports, probably more so in football than any other sport. So what we've done is we've prepared a proclamation to honor you as representatives of your football team, your coaches, and the school in general. And after I read this to you, would like to have you all be introduced by Coach Wagner and have you say a word or two, whatever is on your mind. And if you're thinking about going to SC, let me know. You can let that out in big hoo-ah. Okay. Whereas the 2014 Rancho Mirage Rattlers, without any senior players, became the school's first ever varsity football team, basketball team, baseball team, tennis team, golf team, track and field team, and all the other varsity athletic teams fielded this year. And whereas each of the Rattlers' 2014 athletic teams began virtually every contest as underdogs, as there were no senior class athletes providing their customary experience, skill levels, and leadership. And whereas being required to compete against stronger, older, and swifter teams served only to strengthen the resolve of each varsity athlete to perform to his or her limits, thus establishing a very high bar of competitiveness for all future Rattler athletes. Football, for example, is a game of physical contact involving experience, power, weight, and speed, attributes usually maximized in a player's senior year. And whereas starting every football game as underdogs required raw courage, a fighting spirit, and the grit to go forward into battle, determined to represent the Rancho Mirage High School student body and fans to the fullest extent of their abilities. And whereas under the leadership of Coach L.D. Matthews, the Rattlers football team never began a game mentally conceding defeat and always did their utmost to be the victor regardless of an opponent's record or reputation. And whereas the Rattlers freshmen, sophomores, and juniors persevered through obstacles and challenging odds, yet before season's end, the varsity football team enjoyed the sweet taste of victory by defeating Yucca Valley High School 48-27. And whereas there will never again be a Rattlers team obligated to carry such burdens as were carried by the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors comprising the varsity teams of 2014. And long may their courageous examples motivate all future athletes who carry the Rattler banner into athletic competition. Now therefore be it resolved this 4th day of December 2014 that the Rancho Mirage City Council hereby congratulates each Rattler athlete who laid the foundation for Rancho Mirage High School's legacy of spirit, resolve, and courage. Thank you guys and gals for all you've done for the football team. Tatiana will get to you, but you've really have established a bar that probably no team will ever come close to having to meet as you have. Congratulations, fellas. Coach Matthews, I'd like to give you this proclamation. We have it so that you can put it on a wall somewhere, and hopefully over the years others will always remember the work that your fellows and you did this year. And if you'd like to talk a little bit about them and maybe introduce the fellows who are here, we'll take Tashiana at the end separately.
Thank you. Well, first, thanks for having us here today. I'd like to start off by introducing the players. Number 60 here is a sophomore defensive lineman, Travis O'Brien. Number 1, Marcus Pryor. He's a quarterback, freshman. Number 11, Talon Gillespie. He's a junior, running back, linebacker. Number 25, Stephen Knight. He's a defensive back and running back. He's a junior. Number 88, Isaiah Archuleta. He's a sophomore, a tight end linebacker. And Johnny Avila, number 76, he's a center and defensive lineman. So we really had a great year this year to start out our first varsity season. We were, like you said, a little undersized, but the kids battled all year long and we got that first victory. I'd like to let a couple of our captains speak right now. Isaiah, if you want to come forward.
I think we had a tough season, but it made us a lot better. It taught us a lot about ourselves and how to stay together, because a lot of teams want to crumble after a season like that, but I think we all just want to work and get better and turn it around for next year.
It's hard to win games when you play teams that have seniors who have more knowledge and just more bigger, stronger, been there a lot longer. But hopefully next season we'll do a lot better and most likely make the playoffs.
Before we pass that down, let everybody get a word in. Believe it or not, the quarterback for this year's team is, as Coach Matthews just pointed out, a freshman. I mean, you're not going to see that happen probably ever again in any of our lifetimes. And I'm hoping that you get the academic credentials necessary to apply for and get into USC.
Well, I just want to go back on what Isaiah said. You know, through all the trials and tribulations that our team had, you know, we always all stuck together as a team. And I think us all being freshmen, juniors, and sophomores and juniors, we're all going to be able to come back together next year stronger and better, learning from our mistakes this year. And, you know, I think that's just a great thing that we all get to come back together as a team, as brothers here, to take it back to the field next year and show them what we all learned from last year. That's it.
No.
Here, I'll pass it. Let's see what our principal has to say about this outstanding group of young men and women.
You know, this is the case for all of our athletic teams this year. They're all competing at the varsity level. They're all competing understaffed, undersized, under everything, and as you said, underdogs to every situation. And so, you know, every time we step onto the field or on the court, we go out there going, yeah, but we get to stay together, and we're all here again next year. And everything that we do now is learning. Everything that we do now is an opportunity to get better, and we continue to do that. And our students and athletes and academic students, everybody at our schools, is taking the opportunity every single day to get better. And that's what's going to make these guys amazing as they continue to grow and develop, and then go on to their lives outside of high school, whether it be college or not. But it's an amazing start that we've had, and we continue to cherish every single day and the opportunities that our students are able to bring us. It's certainly fun for us as administrators. I'll introduce to you today who you might not have met yet, but Mr. Calderwood, who's our athletic director. But we I know him and I specifically and especially have a great time every day at school because, school ends and that's fun and all, and then we get to go watch athletes after school on a daily basis, and it's a great time, and we get to talk to these kids all day, all the time, and talk to them every day about getting better. And it's always a learning experience, and that's why we do what we do, and helping them to become young men and women and to just always improve.
Looks like a great group that we've got going for us, and we're as proud as you are, and we look forward to the coming year. And fellows, good luck. Any time the city can help you, if you get a traffic ticket, don't call us, but anyway, good luck next year, and keep your grades up. Very, very important. And if you'd like to take your seats, I'll bring Tatiana over here. Oh, good, we get some photographs. That's
Go Rattlers!
we had to separate so that you guys wouldn't be embarrassed. You get a nice looking young lady up here, then you guys will kind of crumble. She's not going to crumble. Let me read the certificate of appreciation or recognition that we have for Tatiana Harvey. She is a very unique athlete, as you will learn from what I'm about to read. On behalf of the entire City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage, we hereby recognize and commend Tatiana Harvey for her excellent athletic achievement in her freshman year as a Rancho Mirage High School Rattler tennis player. She became the first ever individual Rattler athlete to win a league championship, going undefeated in tennis singles for the entire 2014 league season, and winning the 2014 Dianza League singles title in the playoffs at the Tennis Gardens in Indian Wells. She only lost one match this entire year. Owen will maybe talk a little bit about that. One match, and that was in the finals of whatever the league or group was. The person who won the championship is the only person who beat this freshman. And I think there are very few freshmen can match a record that you've established this year, Tatiana. Owen McIntosh is your coach. Why don't you say a little and then introduce Owen, and he'll say a little bit about you. Let me ask you a question or two, make it easy. What does it take to become an excellent tennis player, and where do you intend and hope to take your career?
What it takes to make a good tennis player is by practicing a lot. I'm nervous, I'm sorry. Practicing a lot with your coaches, listening to what they say.
Good answer.
She's so shy.
Well, I want to go to Division I for tennis for a college.
Let me help her out here. Tatiana, I could sit up here and talk for an hour about Tatiana and the balance of her teammates, this year. By the way, these guys over here are truly bosses, but they are concerned and come out to all of our matches and sometimes practices, and that's why the bar is raising here, because we have excellent direction. But in terms of the tennis team, we had about 25 girls come out this year, first varsity year, 11 of which didn't have tennis rackets, and probably more than that didn't have tennis shoes. Tatiana was not one of those. She's played tennis since she was a younger child, and as a result, her results are far better. But the team, we had no expectations. It wasn't as if we felt we weren't going to do well, but we never considered that we would do well. And with, I think, 9 freshmen and 5 sophomores, we didn't have a junior on the team or a senior, we went to the CIF playoffs first year, which is something I doubt has ever happened in the Valley, and probably not in other areas as well. So this team really did well beyond what anyone would have thought they would have done. And Tatiana was the champion of that team. And when I say champion, I mean that in more ways than one. Obviously, she won the De Anza League championship, but in more ways than that, she was the champion of our school. She walked around with her head held high, even though we lost our first 5 matches, and she brought the level of play up with all the other girls and rallied them to become the team that they ultimately became. We lost matches to people early in the season that we reversed in the latter half of the season. We quite frankly had the second best league record in the league in the second half of the season. And a good part of that is as a result of somebody like Tatiana taking hold of that team, getting them to aspire to be better players and to practice hard. She never missed one practice that I can recall. And for someone that plays USTA tournaments and has a private coach, that's unheard of. Typically, tennis players are very individualistic, they have their own schedules, and they very often don't play high school tennis at all, let alone come to all of the practices and matches. Tatiana came to all of them. And she set a standard for the girls to follow, and they followed her. And you can see how humble she is, just how she's standing here today and not telling you all of the things that she told those girls. And believe me, she had no reluctance in telling those girls at practice and at matches how she feels. She is a leader, and as you see her develop in the next 2 or 3 years, and I encourage you all to come out and watch this girl play, you're going to see a girl that becomes far more confident. She'll probably stand up here longer than I could and tell you about her tennis. It's just a natural growing phenomena, and Tatiana will prove me right, I'm sure, in later years. We're looking forward to next year. I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm thinking league championship next year and maybe a CIF championship a couple of years from then. Now, mind you, I'm not guaranteeing you anything, but I think it's reasonable that we will get there, and we will do it with Tatiana as our champion.
Thank you, Owen. Tatiana, let me give you the certificate, and maybe we'll get a photograph or two here with you making the photograph look great.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you all for coming and making a presentation and showing us how wonderful it is to be able to represent your school so beautifully. Okay, moving on to another presentation, and this is going to be done by Gabe Cotting. He's going to be giving us an update. He is the tournament director for the ANA Inspiration, which is formerly the Kraft Nabisco Championship, and he'll be sharing some of the details of the new 5-year sponsorship agreement for the city's signature event. Welcome, Gabe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, honorable members of the City Council, city staff, and we've become friends and fans. It's really a global platform, and so I'm here with excitement. I'm also very relieved after the global search for a new title sponsor after Kraft exited after 2014. I'm very excited to announce that ANA Airlines, All Nippon Airways from Japan, Japan's leading airline, has signed on for a 5-year commitment to title this event. And this will be I started working with this event in some capacity in 1996, so I'm going into my 20th year. And I've always thought and long sought after a sponsor who would A, love the destination, B, appreciate the global footprint that it delivers, and then C, really be enamored with the history and tradition that has been built here, and that's really unmatched in women's golf around the world. And we've found that, and we've found great friends and a great travel partner for an international destination such as Rancho Mirage. So I'm very, very pleased. A couple things about this partnership that I think will resonate with the city, and as we look to execute the first event of 5 in the next 4 or 5 months, is not only are they the title sponsor of the ANA Inspiration, but they're also the official airline of the LPGA. So our team will actually be activating at other regions across North America, Honolulu, Vancouver, New York City, Chicago, highlighting ANA, and most importantly, all pointing it back to the ANA Inspiration, which will be in Rancho Mirage. So this gives us now a 52-week-a-year platform in which to build the ANA brand in the U.S., but also point us back to where their biggest platform as a company, the ANA Inspiration. So I'm very excited about that. The inspiration came from those of us in the golf business. You only have a few monikers that you can try to hold on to and capture. So we've been through legacy, legend, tradition, all the main ones in golf, and there wasn't anything that really stuck. So I was in a meeting in New York, and ANA for the last 8 or 9 years, they've had the inspiration of Japan. And the chief marketing officer for the LPGA said, man, wouldn't it be great if we could somehow put inspiration in the name and really own that? And we all kind of went, well, it's kind of an interesting word. It's not overly used in golf, but it certainly has a lot of miles with it. So it settled, and they were very much of it, because they said, with us, this tagline will be with us for many years to come. It's not a corporate tagline that we're going to change every 3 years. So that birthed the ANA Inspiration. And at our press conference in Naples, Florida, the Tour Championship, we had about 8 of our past champions, Lexi Thompson, Morgan Pressel, Kari Webb, you didn't even have to say the word inspiration, but it just naturally came out in the stories that they told and what this event and what the City of Rancho Mirage means to them each and every year. So I think it'll give us something to really own and bring home, and another story to tell about the City of Rancho Mirage. And as a further point of confirmation, I thought of a funny story to tell that I hadn't really told anybody. I literally just confirmed it this morning, but I'm going to be hosting about 8 or 9 of their executives from Japan, New York, and LA next week. And so as I'm putting all the travel plans together, it came up that one of our local residences, one of our local restaurants, she was an ANA employee for about 16 years. She's a member at Mission Hills, and she just recently opened Shabu Shabu Zen right literally down the street. And so that will be the first dinner I'll be taking them to, and they're over the moon excited of that parallel that just our little city here delivers on a global scale. So I wanted to just say thank you, especially over these last challenging years when things weren't looking so on the up, and for the support and all the fanfare that the city has delivered, and especially the City Council, and being behind myself personally and professionally, and just wanted to give a heartfelt thank you that we're really in a really strong position, and we look forward to really expanding the global footprint of this event, and open it up to any questions that there may be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabe. Any comments?
Question, Gabe. I understand the prize money is going to be increased this year. Is that true?
Yes, so correct. So our prize, when Kraft started to deploy their exit strategy, their purse, the last purse increase this event experienced was 2006. And so we are $1.25 million behind the lowest other majors. So there's going to be an initial increase of purse of $500,000, and we're immediately going to try to get that to $3 million as quick as possible to get in line with the other majors. So that is one of our key initiatives. Is we need to put about $1.5 million into this event just to make it relevant across all the other majors. So you'll start to see that each year.
It's a major commitment, isn't it?
It is. It's 5 years on their part. And another interesting tidbit that resonates with the LPGA, resonates with ANA, certainly resonates with me. Golf will be in the Olympics in 2016. So we will have 2 ANA inspirations prior to the Olympics, leading into the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. So to have a Japanese partner of this size in the tourist business, in the airline business, leading into the 2020 Olympics, I think puts us in a strong position. And so we're really looking forward to that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions of Gabe?
No, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, as always, for the time. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Dana.
If I could, excuse me, I just wanted to tell the coach that you guys can leave. This is a civics lesson, you know. You do get credit for being here. And Coach and Mr. Wagner, would you guys take it upon yourselves to get to us an autographed football signed by the players on the team and the coaches and the principal? If you would do that, we would appreciate it. Any expense we'll take care of.
We'll pay for the ball, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
And it will be a wonderful tribute to you. We'll put it in our showcase in the front, and everyone can enjoy seeing it. Thank you again. All right, moving on now to non-agenda public comments. And this is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. So if somebody has something to say, please fill out a yellow card. If you don't have time to, you can always raise your hand and you will be recognized. So when I call your name, please come up to the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us where you're from. First of all will be Jeffrey Baum. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Good afternoon, Mayor Smotrich and Vice Mayor Hobart and the rest of the council. First off, I've got to say that I love the presentations. It just is a constant reminder to me about how fortunate we are that Sunnylands is based in Rancho Mirage, because it demonstrates the community that cares about its young men and women. It cares about our residents, our neighbors with disabilities. It cares about cultural preservation. And I know that we were delighted to hear about the program with Fred Fisher's coming up. So we'll do our share in helping promote that because Fred Fisher has played an important role in the history and development of the Annenberg Estate and the Sunnyland Center and Gardens. I have just 2 quick announcements and an introduction to make. First off, in my regular reporting about Sunnylands, happy holidays to everybody, and we hope you had a great Thanksgiving and looking forward to the end of the season. Just about 3 weeks ago, President Obama traveled to China to meet with the President of China again in a meeting that was hailed by many as either Son of Sunnylands or Sunnylands 2. And out of that meeting came a very important breakthrough agreement on greenhouse gases. And it's just the things that were set in motion here in Rancho Mirage are continuing to have a global impact. And so one of the things we are beginning to continue, well, not just beginning, continuing to see high levels of Chinese tourists coming to Rancho Mirage to visit Sunnylands. And I have for each of you a set, hot off the press, these have not been released yet, postcards that have been developed for the Chinese tourists that come through and visit the Sunnyland Center and Gardens and visit the bench, and there's a picture of the guest book where President Xi Jinping signed and others, and you'll have a chance to see one of the new items, and I shared those with the city clerk who will be passing them around so you could see what we're also doing to market Rancho Mirage to the Chinese community. The other thing is that, as you all know, you probably hear it as well, people complain most about the inability to get a ticket to tour the estate. They come all the way to Rancho Mirage, they come to our center and gardens and can't get onto the estate. We've actually launched a new tour of the estate. You aren't able to get in the house, but it's an open-air cart tour that is available as you walk in without pre-purchased tickets, and you can come in. It's offered 4 times a day while we're open, and it's a tour of the grounds that is been developed by Janice Lyle, the director of the Center and Gardens, and I think you'll enjoy hearing about that. And if anybody complains that they can't get onto the estate, well, now we've made arrangements so they can do that. Lastly, I want to introduce a brand new colleague. Ken Chavez will be succeeding Mary Perry as our new head of community and media relations. And Vice Mayor Pro Tem Hobart, don't hold it against him. He's a Stanford grad, and so I haven't held it against him. I look beyond that to bring him on, but he comes to us with a quarter century of experience as a leading newspaper editor, writer, and ran the Sacramento Bee's newsroom and digital media operation. And I wanted to give you Ken a chance to say hello, and then you'll look forward to meeting him individually in the weeks and months ahead.
Mayor, City Council, again, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's wonderful to be a worker here at Sunnylands and in the city of Rancho Mirage. As Jeff said, I spent the last 25 years in Northern California working for the Sacramento Bee, but I am a native of Southern California. I grew up about an hour west of here near San Bernardino. So for me, this is like a welcome homecoming to be able to be back in Southern California and to be a part of a great community. Thank you.
I first learned of Ken when he toured Sunnylands long before he even looked at a job here, and because of his experience here, and he and his spouse have homes here in the valley, commissioned a very beautiful and in-depth article that promoted Rancho Mirage and Sunnylands to the whole, that was published in the Sacramento Bee just over a year ago. So make sure you see that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and welcome to Rancho Mirage.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Thomas Allen Worthy.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mayor and City Council, and thank you for having us. This is Bubba. Oops. My service dog in training. You would be shocked because I can't afford every single card or plaque or, collar, the amount of harassment that I have sustained. The latest being yesterday in the courthouse in Palm Springs after I'd already been in the courtroom with the judge, obviously, and that sheriff. I was harassed by another sheriff outside the courtroom. But anyway, it's nonstop. Anyway, Mr. Binder, I beg your pardon what your pronunciation if I don't have it correct either way. I would like to prevail on you. Again, it's only fair. Mr. Charlie McClendon is well aware of the chain of crimes, if you will, as you've heard me indicate, and I have prevailed on La Quinta city manager as the person who nearly murdered me lived in their area. In turn, I've asked, if it's not too much, if you would prevail on Palm Springs City Manager David Reddy, who surely is the last man standing over there. If you recall, I asked Palm Springs City Attorney Doug Holland to resign for not telling the truth. I hate to use the lie word, it's an ugly word, but he has in fact lied to the Desert Sun, namely with regard to my being harassed by the Palm Springs police, and in particular one of the men that was named in that federal lawsuit was assigned to this case, and dare I say has not lifted a finger. And the crimes, plural, started here at two different addresses in Rancho Mirage. I don't want to breach the lawsuit, but it's public record, number one. Number two, the second cause of action, but not named in the lawsuit, was the fact that that person, David Tallman, and I have permission from my attorney this morning to mention his name, assaulted me terribly and threw me on the floor when I dared ask what happened to my car. Because, of course, at that time, I had no memory. And my right ankle slammed against the bar and broke it so badly that now 2 years later, the surgeon at Desert Hospital tells me it's still broken. Part and parcel of my gait problem. I can't have the surgery because I'm homeless, so I don't know. The doctor can't tell me how long I'll have to recover. I hardly can recover being homeless. So I'd like to, the yellow light's on briefly, but I'd like to say, I wouldn't, if you recall, choked up here before. I don't defame the Palm Springs police. I've simply told the truth, and we've all are paying the price for it. And the malfeasance and egregious behavior stretches now over here. Okay? And it's not okay, because there are crimes and they've been ignored. But it's against my religion. The time is up to read what Mrs. Eddy says further about not defaming anyone. I'll read that another time, a brief paragraph. Never would I do such a thing. So if I could prevail on you, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Okay, that was the last of the yellow cards that were turned in. Is there anyone that would like to come and speak? I see someone waving their hand. And it looks like Ron Sherrill from Rancho Mirage. And it is Ron Sherrill.
Since we were talking about the difficulty of getting tickets to events here, I came to thank everyone for their help, because we have sold all 515 tickets to the speaker series for 2015, and we're very excited about it. It's a tribute to the people we've selected as speakers and to the help we got from the City Council. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those of you who didn't get a ticket, 2016 is coming. You got to act earlier.
Thank you, Ron. For all those that don't know, Ron Sherrill is the chairperson of our speaker series. And they've put together a magnificent assortment of speakers that we're so proud to be presenting. And we're thrilled that it's been a total sellout. And as he said, next year they're going to do more of the same. So don't forget to put it on your calendar. Thank you, Ron. Okay, now we'll be moving on to our consent calendar, and this is going to be presented. Oh, strike that. We're moving on to our minutes. So we're going to be closing the comments, the public comments, if there is no one else that wishes to speak. So we'll go on to council member comments. Okay. Why don't we start there? Richard, did you have anything to say?
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, though.
Thank you. And Charlie?
I'm good, thank you. I know I'm good, but I have nothing to say.
Yeah, we all know you're good. Okay, so there are no comments from the council members. So now we will be moving on to the approval of the minutes. So this is going to be the minutes from November 20th, 2014, and this was a regular meeting. So if there are no additions or corrections, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? And a
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Now we're moving on to the consent calendar, and this will be presented by our city manager, Randy Binder. And if there are any items that wish to be pulled by the public or by council members, now would be the time. Otherwise, Randy will proceed with the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. First, I'd like to announce that Bess McGladry, our Deputy City Clerk, will be retiring in December, and this will be her last meeting. Is she here, Cindy? She can hear us. Well, thank you, Bess, for your service.
Do you applaud or not applaud that achievement?
We applaud with tears in our eyes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I say we applaud.
I say we applaud.
It's a short consent calendar today. The first item on the agenda is to waive full reading of the ordinances that are introduced or adopted pursuant to today's consent calendar. Item number 2 on consent is a resolution that would reduce the development impact fee for the Coachella Valley Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan. This plan is a 75-year plan that will protect 27 species of flora and fauna in the Coachella Valley, as well as open space for present and future generations. The fee is being reduced 8% because the city of Desert Hot Springs has been added to the plan area, and that increases the amount of potential development, which will decrease the fee for all of the cities. Item number 3 is a notice of acceptance for improvements at Whispering Waters. Senior Affordable Housing Project, we fixed the exterior stucco, repainted it, and installed 23 awnings on the units and 1 freestanding awning for shade at the pool area. Item number 4 on your consent calendar are approval of contracts. And item number 5 are demands, and we are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second that.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Please vote. Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. In the interest of time and people's schedule, we are going to move on to item number 9.
Yes.
And
Item number 9 will be next.
And so this will be next, and this is the classification system study and the final report, and it's going to be presented by the Administrative Services Director, Kim Malcolm Valente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just a brief introduction before our consultants give their presentation. In 2013, at the request of the city manager and myself, council approved the first ever citywide classification study to be done on all positions. Throughout the last 17 months, staff have participated, and today we have the final report. I'd like to introduce Mr. Bruce Lawson from Fox Lawson, Division of Gallagher Benefit Services, who was the principal director on the study.
To the council, thank you very much, staff. Appreciate being here. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through the entire presentation, more just to hit a couple of highlights, and then be happy to answer any questions as we go forward. As Kim has already pointed out, when the project began, we went through an exercise to try and help the city define its compensation and classification philosophy and strategy, and there were a couple of issues that really came out. One was to simplify, broaden the job classification structure, and then ultimately to deal with some compensation issues, but that is a separate project down the road. But the strategy laid out where the city wanted to go relative to the overall program. Over the last many months, we've gone through a process of having employees fill out questionnaires. We did individual interviews, occupational panels. New class specifications were written, or the structure was developed, new descriptions were written. Employees were given a second opportunity to request reconsideration. That has taken place, and the final recommendations have been submitted, and that is what is before you for adoption. The class structure itself is really designed to take what is now, and I'm just going to skip back to really to the end of the presentation, to take what is now 70 different job titles and consolidate them into what we call job classifications. There are really 30, there's 33 labels, but there are really 30 or so separate job classifications, and really focusing on the type of work and the level of work that people perform. This will give the city considerable flexibility as you go forward in terms of assignment of work, changing circumstances, without job classification being an issue in the process. So with that very rapid summary, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and I can go into any detail you'd like.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No? Okay. Any questions from the public or comments? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, may I have a motion to approve?
Just one comment, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to note that the subcommittee, which was represented by Dana and myself, met on this issue several times over the last few months, and I think we really made some great strides in the formulation of all the data, and more importantly, I think it was good to recognize that staff also had input and the employees had input, and I think what we've come up with is an excellent plan that everybody agrees upon how it should be implemented, and we now look forward to the next step of the process. and I thank you for doing a great job on this.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your comments, Richard. Okay, will someone make a motion to approve?
I will make a motion that the City Council approve and authorize the City Manager to establish and implement the city's new classification plan and structure.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kim, for presenting that. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is an action item. Strike that, it's a public hearing. Number 6 on our agenda, and this is going to be presented by Jeremy Gleim, our planning technician.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The applications on your screen have been submitted in conjunction with an 82-lot residential subdivision, which has been named Tesoro. The subject property exists on 33.74 acres of land in an area of the city commonly referred to as Section 30. It is bordered to the south by the Versailles neighborhood. It is bordered to the north by an existing equestrian facility, a 5-acre parcel of land that currently does not benefit from street access, and vacant land. Vacant land also exists to the east and west, and 2 single-family homes also border the project site. The project spans across 2 different zoning districts. The majority of the project lies in the RM zone, which allows a maximum density of 4 dwelling units per acre, and the easternmost 5 acres of the project lies in the RL2 zone, which allows a maximum density of 2 dwelling units per acre. Also of note on this slide is the RL3 zone, which lies just south of the subject property, and again, that is the Versailles community. A specific plan amendment was submitted in conjunction with this project to modify the Section 30 Master Circulation Plan. The applicant proposes a slight realignment of Via Florencia, which is currently an unimproved public street. The proposed realignment would shift a portion of Via Florencia north approximately 300 feet. The realignment would benefit current and future property owners alike by, number 1, providing street access to a parcel that currently does not benefit from it, which is highlighted in orange. Number 2, because the applicant will locate the entire street right-of-way on the project site, the surrounding property owners will not be required to dedicate any land for street improvements. Number 3, by moving the street to the north, a substantial buffer is created between the equestrian facility and any future homes on the site. And lastly, this configuration allows the applicant to locate the majority of the lots on the south side of Via Florencia, thus creating a more contiguous project. This slide shows the layout of the tract as it relates to the surrounding properties. The shading on the lots represents the 2 different zoning districts, and lot sizes across the project site vary from 9,057 square feet to 19,101 square feet. The average lot size for the entire project is 11,523 square feet. The retention basins and open space lots are highlighted in green on this slide, and the project has been segmented into 3 distinct areas. The first being the large collection of lots which lies south of Via Florencia. The second is the cul-de-sac the cul-de-sac which lies north of Via Florencia at the project's northeastern extent. And finally, the 4 large lots that are located opposite the project's main entry, which are served by a one-way eyebrow street. Because the Versailles neighborhood lies in the RL3 zone, which is less dense than the RM zone, the applicant has proposed larger lots along the common boundary wall. Lots along this property line average 12,254 square feet. Also, all of the pad elevations along the boundary wall are lower than those in Versailles, which is a benefit to the existing homeowners in that community. This slide shows the emergency access road that is proposed at the project's eastern extent. The emergency road follows the alignment of the public street layout for Section 30 and will connect to Monterey Avenue at the Dick Kelly intersection. The emergency road will be paved. It is to be 20 feet wide and will be sectioned off with bollards and gates both at Monterey Avenue and at Via Florentia so that the general public cannot access this emergency road. 5 of the project's 7 parcels are subject to the sewer lift station reimbursement fee. Those parcels are they're outlined in red on the slide. Payment of these fees must occur prior to the issuance of any city permits. Unique to this area of the city is the requirement for a 6-foot wide concrete multi-use trail, which is to line the public streets. The applicant will install the trail on both sides of Via Florentia and also along the project frontage at Via Josefina. The landscape plan for the project is quite extensive and is climate appropriate in nature. Some of the highlights of the plan include an entry street that is to be constructed entirely of decorative pavers and which is to be flanked on either side by large amounts of open space. This configuration creates a true boulevard aesthetic as no homes, no lots are proposed along this street. Tree-lined private streets, landscape medians within the private streets, which double as aesthetic upgrades to the streetscape and traffic calming devices, and cul-de-sac bulbs, which will be outfitted with decorative pavers and specimen trees, are just some of the upgrades to the landscape plan. Staff has also conditioned that 50% of the trees along the public street be 36-inch box selections or larger. 2 of the project's retention basins have been equipped with community amenities. Lot E proposes a pickleball court, and Lot I proposes a half basketball court and playground equipment. Lot J, which is not a retention basin, has been furnished with a dog park. Because lots E and J have been located along the common boundary wall with Versailles, and there is a potential for noise impacts just due to the nature of those amenities, the Planning Commission conditioned that these active amenities be located further within the project site, and that the more passive amenities be located along the fringes. The applicant was amenable to this condition and will work with staff in determining an appropriate location for those amenities. The Planning Commission also conditioned that the applicant establish an agreement with the Versailles Homeowners Association to ensure that the integrity of the common wall is maintained. The applicant was amenable to this condition as well. That pretty much concludes the presentation for the tract. I wanted to mention that I have not received any calls about the project since the public hearing notices went out. However, I did receive a letter yesterday afternoon from a D.S. Brower who was against the development of one-way streets. There is only one such street in the project. It is the Eyebrow Street, which serves the 4 large lots opposite the main entry. So there may have been some confusion as to what was going to be considered one way or not. There was no phone number on the letter, so I wasn't able to contact the author of that letter for discussion or clarification. And so with that, based on the content, findings, and conditions in the staff report, the Planning Commission has recommended approval of this project. I thank you again and would be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions or comments, Dana?
When is the start time of this, Jeremy?
The start plan?
Yeah.
There's a couple things. Number one, none of the houses have been proposed for this as of yet. Number two, there's an issue with the water district. They need some infrastructure in that area of the city. So until the infrastructure is completed or a letter from the water district is given to the applicant to go ahead with this project, it cannot begin.
Are they going to build like 4 models? Is that the plan?
Well, there's no application for the actual architecture yet. That would be submitted as a separate application. This is just for the lots.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeremy, as long as you're talking about that, could you talk about what a single-phase development is?
Absolutely. So in some instances, larger projects will develop like the public improvements, the streets and such, in a phased manner so that maybe 1/3 or 1/2 of the project is done first, and then the rest of it is done at another time. So I was simply stating that there was no mention of any phasing for this project, so it's staff's understanding that all of the street improvements, everything will be built at one time.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dana?
Jeremy, what, if I'm understanding correctly, the retention basin was originally going to be the dog park area, and the dog park's being moved over to Lot J?
Lot J was the original location.
I see.
Yeah, it was and the planning commissioners wanted that moved.
And they wanted that moved over to the retention basin, is that the way?
Well, yeah, perhaps somewhere more central to the project, so as not to create noise impacts to the Versailles neighbors.
My question is, if we swapped the retention basin, E, and had it adjoining the retention basin, I guess that's I, and take lot 46, turn that into retention basin, where they could have the dog park there, which would be pretty much out of everybody's way. And then would they be able to get a home in a property on lot E if it were taken out of the retention basin category?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's, so from what I understand, you would essentially eliminate the lot nearest retention basin I, and essentially square off that open space area. And then
right,
perhaps,
just have it consume lot 46.
Correct. And then, yeah, there is potential for that to happen. If lot E, if the retention basin at lot E perhaps were smaller or deepened or something, there could be possibility for a lot to be.
Looks like a pretty good sized lot. Actually, it's larger than lot 46.
Correct.
So they could get more house on it if that lot is otherwise amenable to that kind of development.
Sure. As long as they could sort out the drainage to make it work, I think that would be fine. Absolutely.
Well, when we talk to them, maybe you fellows would be considering that, and we can talk about it. Thank you.
Jeremy, the concept of an eyebrow street is new to our city. Why was that brought into this project?
It's kind of an interesting concept, and it really works well here because, as you can, let me get the pointer here. One of the issues was they didn't want to locate these 4 large lots directly on the public street. They wanted to create a little bit of a buffer for access to those streets. Also, having the eyebrow creates this large landscape area, which essentially acts as an anchor to the entry street. So on the exhibit at the bottom, you can see there's an anchor here, and then there would be an anchor on this side with the open space lot J. It's just a nice aesthetic.
You have any concerns about the traffic ending up going the wrong way on that street?
I don't think so. The Public Works Department had mentioned that perhaps, well, certainly signage would be included, but that would essentially be a private street, so the homeowners association would maintain that. So
will it be gated?
That I don't believe so. It's not proposed to be gated.
So it's still open to the public driving either direction?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Is this a street that was proposed to be all pavers?
This street, staff had originally conditioned that this eyebrow be constructed entirely of decorative pavers. The applicant asked for some relief of that condition at the Planning Commission hearing, and the Planning Commission granted that relief. Basically, what we would be looking for is pavers at the intersections and potentially lining the street, but not the entire street itself.
Okay, can you go to the plat that showed the emergency road, please? The emergency road will be closed off at Monterey and via Josefina, is that correct?
That's correct. At some location, either at the corner here, it hasn't been determined as of yet where exactly the bollards will be, but somewhere in this location and also at this location. That's correct.
And why is this not being improved to a regular street so you can have access in and out?
The applicant is only required or responsible to develop their half width of street, so they will develop the full street up to this point.
Which point? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that will be completely developed, their half width of the street. The fire department actually needed a secondary access road. That's why they've chosen to pave out to Monterey, following the ultimate alignment of the street plan.
It would sure be easier for people trying to locate this development if they could come off of Monterey rather than having to go all the way back to Bob Hope.
I think one of the other issues with that is those parcels are owned by separate parties, so they would have to, I suppose they would essentially have to get consent from each of the property owners. But I don't know that that's an option to develop the street on the other folks' properties.
Okay, and there's no plan at the present time to develop that street in any manner so it could be used as a public street?
That's correct.
Okay. One last question. You can use the same plat going all the way back to the lots that are on Bob Hope?
Oh,
yeah, those where your pointer is right now.
Okay.
Are those going to have access onto Bob Hope or to the cul-de-sac?
This is actually via Josephina.
I mean, I'm sorry.
But
right.
It is not going to have direct access from the public street. It will only have access from the interior.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? I believe there was a condition of development agreement with Versailles HOA regarding the dividing wall. Has that been taken care of?
It wasn't a development agreement. It was basically a maintenance agreement that they had to enter into with that homeowners association, and it would be done in conjunction with the CC&Rs for the project, which have not been done yet.
Okay, sounds good. And also the meandering multi-use trails, where is that?
All right. Those trails are here. So basically, this is one. They'll line the entire street frontage of Via Florentia all the way down to the end here on both sides of the street.
Okay. And the blow sand mitigation plan, has that been addressed?
Yeah, it's a common condition of approval in projects in this area.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Jeremy, are any of these streets going to be gated off?
Yes. Let me delete this. So there'll be a gate here, and this will be an exit gate and emergency entry only. There will be a gate here at the main entry for obviously ingress and egress. And there will also be a gate here. Again, that's just for egress and emergency ingress. And then this cul-de-sac will have a separate gate here. So a total of 4 gates.
The emergency gates, are they automatic or are they locked?
If they're set up for egress, then they're automatic.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I was going to make one suggestion in regard to the traffic calming dividers that we have in the road. At this point, I see we have 4 of them that I could identify. And one of them is on a long stretch, and it is in front of the units of 23 and 24. Is there any chance we can not use that one, or at least have another one in front of the home, number 21, and one at 27?
Yeah, those can certainly be moved, absolutely.
Okay, because it is a long stretch of road, and I think that calming the traffic would make a big difference there.
More of a central location along that street?
Right.
Sure.
Okay. So no other comments or questions from council? Okay. Any comments or questions from the audience?
Could we have the developer
Okay,
come up?
Pardon me? Okay. The hearing is now open. If people would like to come forward, please state your name when you come to the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, and members of the council and staff. I'm John Gamlin, representing Meriwether, the owner of the property. I have in the audience Graham Culp, as one of the owners of Meriwether, is here, as well as our civil engineer, Rich Clark, and Chris Herman, the landscape architect, if any other questions come up that we want to get into more specifics from either of them. We're really happy to be here. We've been at this for some time with the city, and feel like over the period of the last year or two, we've been able to design a project that is a great addition to what is emerging as a very interesting part of Rancho Mirage in Section 30. One of the things we recognized when the property was acquired, we acquired a total of about 43 acres, which included this property. I think the council toward the fall or end of the summer, you saw the other two maps, which were 5-acre parcels and separate maps. We were excited about the opportunity with this piece to assemble land and create something that was a larger comprehensive plan, something of a challenge given the parcelization of Section 30. So we're happy that we're able to bring something forward. We feel like the quality of the neighborhood is a complement to the other great things going on in the city of Rancho Mirage, which is, as we sat through some of the public presentations, I'd congratulate you because there were some really nice things going on, from having a Christmas tree up the hill again, which has been, that's been a long time coming. In many years past, I've participated in that and been up there, and it's a great thing. And sponsorship of the golf tournament, and certainly seeing Sunnylands on the world stage is pretty exciting for the Coachella Valley. From a design perspective, we've gone from under the strict zoning classifications from a project which would allow under the strict zoning interpretation up to 117 lots down to 98, now down to 82. We appreciate and I spoke with Mr. Gleim this morning about it, the Lot 46, if there is some desire to look at the planning around the retention basin of that lot, to the extent that we could work with staff and retain the quality of the project, but also avoid losing any more of the lots, we'd like the opportunity to be able to do that if we can. As mentioned during the presentation, we're fine at the Planning Commission with the resolution of the dog park and moving that as well to pickleball court, and we will work with the staff to figure out how those amenities can be realized at some other location in the project. Versailles has been a great neighbor to work with. We're also very much in sync with the need to have an understanding respective of the wall, and would work on that as we're developing the CC&Rs for the project. The project will be back in front of the council again with the architecture. There's a lot of nail biting over the right direction to go with respect to the style of the architecture, whether it's a traditional style or something that's a little more modern. And the markets have certainly witnessed a lot of flux in terms of consumer preferences, so we're trying to make the right decisions and understanding this. We have this delay with the water district. It gives us an opportunity to really feel like we focused on what the building opportunity is as far as the architecture. As far as retention basin E, my understanding from speaking to the civil engineer, it would be difficult from a drainage perspective to incorporate that into the main retention basin I without looking at raising the pad grades of the lots along the common boundary with Versailles, which is something where we want to maintain the relationships as it's been designed. It's certainly the alternatives for that we could look at with the staff and determine what the best engineering approach would be to do that. The eyebrow, we haven't shown any, we like the eyebrow. It avoids having 4 separate driveways come out onto Via Florencia, which we think is a nice thing from a circulation perspective. It creates sort of a private enclave. We've had a lot of nice dialogue with our neighbor, the Maytons, who chose to develop a very nice home. That's the out parcel that you see on the map, and it allows us to create sort of an enclave over there that's maybe a little more synonymous with what their lifestyle is, and it could well end up being gated. We haven't gotten as far as figuring out how that's going to be developed. I think it was explained a little bit about the EVA right-of-way. While those alignments appear in the circulation plan, which are part of the general plan for Section 30, I don't believe there's any right-of-way out there today. We have other landowners, and we don't have any, I think, beyond building the 20-foot fire department required EVA, it would be difficult to build the street improvements. There aren't proposals on those projects or those properties today, so we'd be predetermining what some of the grade relationships would be between the streets and the property. And I think I did have a chance to talk to the civil engineer. I think from a traffic calming perspective, we don't see a problem being able to slide down that feature within the internal street that you noted. I didn't have any other comments.
John, I think the intention was not slide it down, but to put two in instead of one and spread them out. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, I think I don't. Yeah, we're fine with that.
Thank you.
Question regarding the EVA road. Who will be responsible for the maintenance of that 20-foot stretch?
I believe the project would be conditioned to maintain it as a 24-hour service by the fire department.
Okay, thank you.
Are you leaning more towards a modern versus the Mediterranean, or are you having a quandary over this?
It's interesting. The current preferences and trends are moving more toward modern styles, and we all have been around long enough to see how the pendulum swings on these things.
Exactly,
and,
that's where I was going. Yeah.
It's so you try to make the right decisions, but right now it looks like things are moving toward more modern or mid-century modern style.
Going back to the eyebrow street one more time, regarding the circulation, how do you envision keeping traffic going in the right direction on that?
I think beyond signage and the potential for gating, that's probably the limit, what I would see happening, unless there's some sort of restricted access, or you do something like put in those nasty spikes or something. I don't know. As a deterrent, I think it's... I guess you just try to sign it and make sure people do the right thing.
Okay. We got any thoughts on that,
staff? What if you changed it to 24 feet and made it two-way?
Yeah.
Because the lots look plenty large.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's probably something we could look at doing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
How will you find out whether you're able to build on Lot E? What's required at this time for you to know whether or not you could swap the retention basin there and enlarge I, or give it a different number, in place of Lot 46?
Sure. I think in the near term, what we could do, we could go back and the civil engineer would have to look at the grades and drainage and determine if that is eliminated, the water that would otherwise go there, how do we convey it from that point to the main retention basin? So it's just a little bit of an engineering study to do that.
Randy, would there be the possibility of having a tentative condition dependent upon the determination as to whether or not Lot E can be modified in such a manner as to allow construction of a house?
Yes, that...
Just make it a tentative, subject to staff and their
Yeah, I would say
approval?
make it a condition subject to staff approval if it's feasible to do. I think the point that he was making is that if we changed it into a lot and deleted Lot 46 at the retention basin, then that means that they would have to raise that corner of the project to tilt it to the east to drain, and he's being sensitive, as he needs to be, to the pad heights of these lots adjacent to Versailles. But I think Jeremy showed an exhibit that showed that these lots are 2.5 feet below Versailles.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'd have to ask the engineer.
So you could potentially add, 6 or 8 inches to the pad height and still be well below Versailles and potentially drain it. So I would add the condition, and we'll see if we can work it out. It's either that or just delete Lot 46.
why would we delete Lot 46 if it's not going to be turned into a retention basin?
Because the active amenities were recommended by the Planning Commission to be moved over to Lot I, away from the Versailles project. Is that right?
They were conditioned to be moved to a more central location.
Yeah, so the intention would be to enlarge that site so it could accommodate those improvements.
I see.
Because the bigger the lot is, it doesn't have to be as deep, which means that there'd be more usable area.
Well, whatever we can do to reduce the possibility of them losing another lot, I would like to do. I might comment that I thought your firm has been very affirmative in dealing with the issues that the subcommittee and staff have presented, and you have brought down the number of lots significantly from where you started. And we appreciate that because that's more the character of the city, and it creates a much better project.
Thank you.
I just would hate to see them lose a lot, a buildable lot in this transition.
Sure. You know, one concept maybe would be to move the lot over to Lot E and still maintain some retention basin area over there since it's such a large lot.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to, there are probably a lot of different ways to slay the dragon, and we're willing to look at a lot of different solutions with the staff.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll try to hobble together a condition that meets all those criteria.
Okay.
Any more questions? That's it?
Nope.
Okay. No questions from the council? Okay. There's somebody who would like to speak?
Thank you.
Okay, there's someone from the audience that would like to come forward.
I know who I am, but I'm Ron Sharrow, and I happen to live at Versailles. And my house happens to be along that mutual wall. And I have some serious concerns about, and purely out of selfish motivation. I live at, I think it's behind lot number 31, and there's some question about, and some concern about the location of a dog park. Apparently that has a negative impact on some people. Frankly, I would rather have the dog park behind my house than a large house with a swimming pool and screaming kids all day, which I experience from my neighbor in Versailles on a fairly regular basis. And so, purely out of selfish motivation, I'm wondering if you cannot, since there's some discussion about Lot J, which I believe is that where the dog park is going to be, why not move Lot J behind my house? I'd love to have the dogs there much more than I would love to have screaming kids in a swimming pool all day.
Jeremy,
So-
can you put the map up showing this?
It has a very negative impact on my view. I presently have a view of the mountains. Put a house there, I've got a view of nothing. So if there's a possibility, and I addressed this to the folks from Meriwether, of switching the dog park to lot 31, rearranging those lots some way, that would be a great benefit to me, and I certainly would appreciate it.
You're backing on J right now, right?
I know, I back on lot 31, which is, J is at the wall, and it's to the, it would be to the south of, yes, that would be to the south of my court, which is Eiffel Court. That's the third court from the left.
This one?
That one. And so my house is right to the right of that.
This one.
That's my house. And I think that's behind lot 31, or lot 30. It's behind lot 31, essentially.
21.
What lot are you talking about? I can't find a lot. 31.
Wait, is it 21 or 31? I can't tell.
It's 21.
It's 21, I beg your pardon. So I'm immediately behind lot 21. I don't know if you could take, J is the dog park?
Correct.
What, is there a way to realign those lots so that J moves up to the position where 21 is? Move the other lots down and put the houses there? I mean, the houses are not going to interfere with anything from the court. And it certainly would accommodate me and probably my neighbor. So if
I'm not sure the lot J is wide enough. I don't see any indication of the square footage, but...
Well, But
see, I'm not
if you
talking-
moved,
I'm
if
not
you
talking
moved
to
J
Ron.
over to lot where lot
Ron.
21 is, and then realigned those other lots, they would become larger. J would
Ron, I'm
become
not
larger.
talking to you, I'm just talking to the council.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy, can we tell, is lot, what are the dimensions of Lot J?
Yeah, I have that. Lot J is 8,177 square feet, and Lot 21 is 11,979 square feet. I think what he's intentioning is to just flop those two lots.
Yes, if that could be done.
The reason
certainly
Lot J
benefit
is there,
Meager.
isn't it, because it's at the end of the street? and
Yes, that's correct.
And you have traffic
Yeah.
which would come up and the lights would go directly into that house.
Correct.
So that's why it's an empty lot.
How long do you think it'll take me to sell my house? I'm kidding. But I thought I would take a shot at it because it would certainly benefit me a great deal if they could get the dog parked. I'd rather listen to dogs bark, for 15 minutes a day.
Well,
than-
make sure they're very quiet dogs.
No, I don't care about how loud the dogs are. If you can get very quiet children on lot
Very
21,
quiet children.
then we'd have some. Okay, thank you.
Lot 21 and the lots around it seem to be some of the deeper lots. And perhaps we can work with the developer when they come in with a development plan and have a 35 or 40-foot rear setback instead of a 25-foot setback to help separate the uses a little more.
Well, Jeremy, you've heard several of us talk about various things that turn into be conditions of one sort or another. Between you and Randy, can you cobble those all together so that we can, when we vote, we're approving it with the conditions or tentative conditions?
Sure. I have the first one, which would essentially extend the traffic calming device, the median island that is located on street lot D, extend it farther to the west.
I think it's move one further to the west and then add another one to the east, right? That's a traffic calming you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah. Was that your intention, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so the intention is there's one street calming device there now, and the intention would be to spread them out and add two.
Okay.
One would be essentially closer to lot 21, and the other one would be closer to lot 27.
So the condition would be under the planning heading and would say, prior to final map, the applicant shall add another traffic calming device to Road D of a design to the satisfaction of staff. And then another condition under planning heading would be that the eyebrow street shall be widened to 24 feet wide and made two-way. And then the last condition under planning would be, if feasible, and as long as the southern lots are not raised more than 6 inches in height, the applicant shall move lot 46 to lot E.
Randy, do we need to put anything in there about maintenance of the emergency road?
Is that a condition already, Jeremy, maintenance of the emergency road?
No, it's not.
And you would put a condition under the Public Works heading that the applicant shall maintain the emergency access road to the satisfaction of staff in perpetuity.
Right, thank you.
Jeremy, what was the final resolution on the pavers on the one street where the applicant wanted to reduce it? How was that left?
They would come back to staff with a proposal. We would be looking for pavers at the intersections themselves and then possibly lining the street, but that it wouldn't have to make up the entire street. So they would work with us in coming up with a final solution.
Thank you.
Jeremy, all of the entrances into the various sections of this development are going to be unmanned, isn't that correct?
That's my assumption. Yeah, as far as I know, they'll be unmanned. I don't have any evidence otherwise.
And there are 3 entrances off of Via Josefina?
There's 1 entry and 3 exits. to the main portion of the project.
Right.
And then a separate entry to the cul-de-sac at the north.
Okay. Are we all finished with questions? All right. Any further questions from the audience? All right. Public hearing is closed, and we shall vote. And I will make the motion that the 3 conditions that are recommended by staff will be a part of the motion, and that we'll have the specific requests and recommendations will include that the number 1, the City Council approve a mitigated negative declaration of environmental impact based upon environmental assessment, case number EA 130006, and we'll vote on that one at this time. So,
Second.
okay, please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. And then item number 2 is adopt an ordinance approving specific plan amendment case number SPA 13001, subject to the conditions of approval and based on the findings and content in this staff report. So, okay,
Second.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. And the third item is approve a resolution to approve tentative track map number 36620 based upon the content, findings, and conditions in this staff report, and adding the 3 additional conditions recommended by staff.
Seconded.
Okay. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just want to comment on this particular development. As long as I've been on the council, this is one of the most unique residential developments that we've had to address. And I think the developers did an excellent job in working with all the different pieces of the pie out there. And Section 30 continues to be a very unique area for development. And I think this development, the way it's structured, gets away from the cookie cutter type of development and really shows that there's some thought in it. So good work for the developer and the staff and the subcommittee.
Yes, absolutely. I would echo your opinion, and it's very unique and very attractive. So thank you so much for all your hard work, and thank you, Jeremy. Okay. We will now be moving on to item number 7. And this is consideration of environmental assessment case number EA 140006, development agreement case number DA 120001, specific plan amendment SPA 12001, and preliminary development plan case PDP 14005 with the developer Rick Johnson. And he is located on Country Club Drive in the Trojan Financial Plaza. So this is going to be presented by Greg Truesdale, our Associate Planner.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. The public hearing today is for a 51-unit assisted living facility at 7400 Country Club Drive on a 2-acre site. The 2-acre parcel is within the Trojan Financial Plaza and west of the Veneto residential development. 20 parking stalls exist along the south side of the parcel at this time. I did a little overview for the council. In 1990, the Highway 111 West Pacific Plan was adopted, and the site was designated office development, so that item is highlighted in red. And I just wanted to point out that there were 3 entitlements in the past that have expired. All were commercial office buildings, 2-story in overall height. So I just wanted to document that. At staff's request, the developer is planning to lower the pad to 247.42 feet for the 2-story project, which is about 2 feet higher than the existing Blue Skies elevation, but 1.5 feet lower than the Veneto project, so it's kind of an average. This is kind of an historic, because it's an infill lot. You can see that originally the lot to the bank building actually has a higher pad at 252.2, so I wanted to show the relationship there on the grading plan. The building is 40,647 square feet, 1 and 2 story. It's centered on the parcel with parking along Country Club and along the fire lane. Each unit is 478 square feet with a kitchenette and private patio. 31 parking spaces are on site, 7 of which will be covered, and they also have a centralized porte-cochere at the front of the building as well. Building setbacks comply or exceed the existing requirements for District 5. Pleasantly, there are 22 excess parking spaces on parcels 1 and 2 of the financial plaza, so that would be to the west of this particular site. 29 units are on the first floor, along with most indoor amenities. Exterior amenities are a swimming pool, spa, walking trail, and outdoor dining areas. Interior design theme per the applicant will be an Hawaiian theme. Lot coverage is 28.7%, which is less than the 30% recommended in the specific plan amendment. Under the project, only 22 units are on the second level. These units will have access by 2 elevators and 2 stairwells. As redesigned, the 2-story building elements are 77 feet from the Veneto property line. To reduce the massing of the complex, 10 units have been removed from the second floor to give a better relationship between the 1 and 2-story elements, which are not to exceed 60% of the project. Although the zoning code requires 0.5 parking spaces per residential unit for residents, guests, and staff, the city's council's commercial subcommittee requested 0.75. Under this site plan, the developer complies but needs to provide 8 spaces on the adjacent property through a shared arrangement. So that is shown on this exhibit. The developer states that through the lease agreement, no resident parking spaces will be allowed, so his intent is not to have any resident spaces whatsoever. Building facades vary through the use of different planes and 2-foot offsets and patio and balcony projections, as shown on the west and north elevations. For the south elevation, hip and gable clay roofs are used along with parapets at different heights. Condition 10 addresses energy efficiency upgrades in order to meet the Silver LEEDs rating. Slide 10 has 2 cross-section views, with A being an east-west view showing the relationship between the project and the Veneto project. The project has been designed to comply with section 17.30.040 of the zoning code, which is our code provisions for assisted living facilities. A California state license is required to operate an assisted living complex. The roof plan shows 1 2-story building elements, including the porte-cochere. Approximately 30% of the roof mass will be clad in tile using a 312 pitch. Primarily, landscape elements are shown on this slide. Along Country Club, new Palo Verde trees, 36-inch box will be added, as well as a dense hedge along the southerly parking lot area. So I just tried to highlight in this slide some of the adjacent sides and some of the different tree palettes. There was a discussion at the Planning Commission meeting about the north side of the project and its relationship with Blue Skies. So there has been a condition added based on the Planning Commission request that the developer work with the Blue Skies folks to ensure that the trees that are put in place, because they indicated they didn't like the acacia, so the developer said they'll work out and resolve another type of species, and that that agreement will be given to staff in the future. The other issue that came up was right now there's lush landscaping along the parkway. This got debated a number of times with the Architecture Review Committee. The final conditions indicate that the developer should change out the turf, and therefore you don't have that plan. But his preference was to leave the turf until the entire development changed. However, the thought is this would be the first parcel to change out, and then they could take advantage of the rebate program that the city has also, as well as the water district. In your 11 by 17 booklets are the materials board. As you can see on the screen itself, generally brown tones for the buildings, pavers, and the stone veneer. I have a variegated clay tile for the roof. It's actually going to be using a El Camino blend, and that's shown on page CB of your 11 by 17 packet. Slide 14 provides a 3D bird's eye view of the front of the 51-unit project pursuant to PDP 1405. The average age of the residents is believed to be probably about 85 years of age, based on information from the applicant. Primary caregiver shifts are going to be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And there was information on that item in the staff report. As well as the PDP application, we do have a development agreement, and the development agreement was set up to reimburse the city for the added expense for ambulance service for the project. So, as mentioned in the staff report, it's a 51-unit project. However, the Planning Commission recommended that it be changed to 47. So I put the voluntary impact fee, both the numbers in here. If reduced down to 47 rooms, and the impact fee is $32,688 per year. If it was 51 rooms, it would be $35,269. So showing that with the reduction in the size, the impact fee would change proportionally. And that's based on the idea that each trip cost is $860.22 approximately. This slide just highlights a couple of the terms of the development agreement. This section 5 alludes to the fact the developer has 3 years to obtain a building permit. Number 6 indicates that they can request a 1-year time extension on the PDP application. Number 7, when the plans come in, staff will work with the developer to process them in a timely fashion. Section 11 in your packet has been updated and revised per the Planning Commission, in essence showing the reduction to the fee reduction to 47 units. And then the Planning Commission also thought that the project should probably be, the fee assessment should probably be reviewed within 3 years, and then they also felt that that the developer should be paid for those, because there'll be quarterly increments, but that the developer pay just for the services that the fire department provides. So if in fact that the number of calls that go out is less than the cost of the fee, then they should be refunded. So we updated the development agreement to show the refund would occur in the December series. Section 12 talks about the fact that there are no side agreements. The developer needs to pay the impact fees that are in effect when the building permits are pulled, and there are no fee waivers under the development request, which can happen under different contracts, but this contract was set up strictly for the impact fee and to address the development request. So that was the primary intent of the development agreement. Additionally, as District 5 of the Pacific Plan was set up for office medical uses, the developer is requesting that the city allow assisted living complexes in District 5. If the land use table is not changed, the project cannot move forward. So that's a critical piece of the puzzle with this application, is the specific plan amendment. Again, the Architecture Review Committee reviewed this project on 2 occasions, and they have signed off on the project with a 4-0 vote, and a lot of their conditions are addressed in Condition 13. As well, the Planning Commission reviewed the project on November 13th. They held a public hearing, took public testimony. There was a lot of different debate. One of the recommendations from the commission, and I stated some of the ones original, was again that they were indicating to the commission, to the council, that the project should be reduced by 4 units, and that the on-site parking ratio should be 0.75. And the conditions relative to that are conditions 2O and 2P. And then I'd also indicate that there had been questions in the past about would this project convert to a skilled nursing facility. So with that question, the answer would be condition 4 states that the skilled nursing facility is not a part of this review. It's only for assisted living. Yesterday we did receive a letter from the Veneto Homeowners Association indicating that they're opposed to the project. So that's something new. I believe the council has a copy of that letter, and a copy was given to the applicant yesterday. So that's new information. Other than that, we received no new information since the Planning Commission meeting. This shows the recommendation that's in your packet today. It's shown on page 7-1 of the staff report. So there's 4 items to consider, and the updates have been made as requested by the Planning Commission. So that would conclude my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here to answer questions as well. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions from council? Richard?
Greg, on the, Greg, on the recommendation right now, is that for 47 units or 51?
The recommendation to council is for the project to be 47 units, yes.
Okay. And do you have a visual showing where those additional 4 units are to be removed from?
Just before the meeting, we did receive an exhibit, and I do have it loaded. I think the developer wanted to show you that exhibit in their presentation. I have seen it, and I loaded it into but I figure I think it's part of their presentation. Did you want to see it now, or as part of their presentation?
We can wait, I guess.
Pardon?
We can wait.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Nobody? Okay. Well, we will open it up to public comments. And is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item? Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Patrick Pratt, and I'm representing the applicant. Mr. Rick Johnson is in the audience to later answer any questions or come up and address the City Council if you so desire. Staff, thank you for the thorough presentation. The applicant agrees with the recommendations of the Planning Commission and agrees with the various conditions of approvals and the findings that are outlined in the staff report. Let's talk about those actions that are here before you this afternoon. First of all, you have a categorical exemption under CEQA. This is due to being an infill development. I think this is appropriate as discussed in the staff report and follows the guidelines of the CEQA California Act. Number 2, a specific plan amendment to allow assisted living facilities. The city has assisted living facilities, as you know, been allowed in office zoning in other parts of the city. And these projects were approved generally in the late 90s, in 97 and 98 more specifically. This does not include the project that's on Country Club Drive that's actually a convalescent hospital. That property is in a institutional zoning, and that property had to be changed to allow that, but that is not in an office zone and is not constituted as an assisted living facility. It's my position that these assisted living projects that were approved in the late 90s were not really on the radar screen of the city in 1990 when this specific plan was adopted. And this specific plan, while this property is in the office zoning category, with the specific plan, it does not have the ability to build assisted living because it is precluded under the specific plan. I think Rancho Mirage is a little unique in that a lot of zoning ordinances have land use categories and then land use categories that are specifically prohibited. The city Rancho Mirage zoning documents and the specific plan sort of goes the reverse of that. It has categories that are permitted, so it's more of a permissive zoning ordinance. So if it's not listed as permitted, it's not allowed, as opposed to if it's listed as prohibited. And the reason I bring that up is that's why you have a specific plan amendment before you, and that's why you have a specific plan amendment process that allows over time, as the document becomes outdated, which I would argue that the 1990 specific plan that is now going on 35 years does need to be reviewed or looked at from time to time when land uses might be deemed to be appropriate in that particular area, i.e. in this case, District 5 for the office zoning. As I stated, the city does allow these kind of uses in office zoning categories in other parts of the city. We think that this specific plan amendment, one of your actions today, is an appropriate land use to be approved by the city with the conditions, because we think it's a less intense land use than the office. As was indicated earlier, there's been several office projects that have been approved at this site. They've not been built. They have been more intense, particularly in the area of traffic. In the staff report, they articulated that the office project would have 225 additional vehicle trips per day than this assisted living facility will. Actually, that's a model that's done by staff. That 225 trips, our position is actually, they're actually more because Mr. Johnson's business model does not have cars for his residents. So though residents who would be coming in and out, they won't have vehicles, so actually the difference would be magnified, that there would be a greater impact with vehicle trips due to the office project than this assisted living facility. I keep using the word assisted living facility. Let's make sure we understand. I think at the Planning Commission meeting it was ultimately clarified, this is not a nursing home. This does not have a skilled nursing component. In fact, it's conditioned, as staff indicated, that it cannot have a skilled nursing component. So this is an assisted living facility that's more residential in nature, I would argue, of the city's senior projects, other than it has a congregate dining facility. But it's really where people would rent their apartment unit, and they are ambulatory, they are independent. There's a condition that this cannot become a skilled nursing facility. It can't be, units can't be rented out for skilled nursing purposes. Skilled nursing has a much greater impact on parking and i.e. staffing levels, so that has been precluded from this applicant. I also would argue that, again, on the impacts being sensitive to the surrounding property owners, office projects also vary on impacts and traffic, depend on tenants. Medical office buildings are a big driver of parking and traffic. In fact, the parking standard for medical components in office are higher than they are for this assisted living facility because they generate more traffic. It relates to that, and particularly the development agreement, which the applicant has voluntarily agreed to enter into on the ambulance, the Medi-Calls. My point on office facilities, because one of the big contentions is the ambulance calls. Well, right now there are obviously no ambulance calls because it's a vacant piece of dirt. During the year ending in 2013 at 39700 Bob Hope Drive, which is Hope Square, it's an two-story office building, primarily medical related with Eisenhower Medical Center. They had 13 calls for medical uses during that time frame. Country Club Drive at 72780, which is at the corner of Monterey and Country Club, which is primarily all medical, which also has an Eisenhower urgent care. During the a year period, they had medical calls, and I'm breaking out medical calls versus fire calls, which would be with the, this would just be ambulance calls, of 77. So for a year period, they had 77 calls. So if you put an office building in there that has a high use of medical, I think you also are going to have a high response of medical calls. We think that this project, again, would be more like the residential housing projects that the city has in their affordable portfolio. And in the period from 8/1/13 through 7/31/14 for a year, the Medi-Calls at San Jacinto Villas, there were 82 units there, was 15. The Santa Rosa Villas, 33 units, had 10 Medi-Calls. West Spring Waters, 29 units, had 11 Medi-Calls. So while the applicants agreed with the development agreement to reimburse an financial impact on Medi-Calls, I believe that the number that's in there now is higher than what's actually going to be found to occur. That's why it's to be adjusted or reviewed after 3 years to see what is the actual number of medical call responses that are at this project. Let's talk about the actual development plan. As was indicated, this project was first proposed. There were 66 units. I was retained by the applicant about 10 months ago to try to assist in making this project more acceptable to the city and the surrounding property owners. We did reduce the project by 15 units. If you could put the one site plan up, please. The original plan had 5 single-story units along the eastern boundary closest to Veneto. Those units have been deleted. Out there now on the site, there's a white post that reflects the corner of that building when it had those single-story, or when it had those single-story 5 units. That location is still the location for the front of the building going towards Country Club, but if you could put a dot right there at that corner.
Which corner were you?
It would be the Country Club at closest to Veneto, the building corner.
Oh, right here? Right here, I think.
No, the building corner.
No, it's right here.
Yeah. Well, that corner that you see now on this plan is actually 11 feet further to the west than the post that's out there now because of the reduction of those 5 units. There were 15 units reduced. The middle section, there were 4 units up there that were reduced, and the 2 edges were reduced 4 units in each one, the one along Country Club and the one along the back. And the project was stair-stepped, which we'll see when we get to the bird's eye view, because there was concern about the mass and scale and how that building looked. To Mr. Kite, Councilman Kite's comment, at the Planning Commission meeting, The applicant agreed to the reducing 4 more units in the condition from the Planning Commission, and I verbalized where we thought that might occur. We did hand out, or give to the city clerk to hand out 2 sheets, and if you can put those up, Greg.
Cindy, do we have those?
This is the birds. If we go to the other sheet, Greg, this is what I verbalized at the Planning Commission meeting the other day. We thought it'd be better to visualize what that would mean. The area in blue with Country Club Drive running down by where it says site plan, you see Country Club Drive, there would be 2 units, and this was also a recommendation from the staff and the Planning Commission, that there'd be 2 units up and 2 units down. So we reduced 2 first-floor units and 2 second-floor units. That pulled the project about 25 feet further back. That then created an opportunity to add more parking. So we added 5 parking spaces where it says new carports, 5 spaces. We actually covered those. There was no parking there. We covered those. And then to meet the requirement of 0.75 on site, we now are at 0.79 on site. And the 8 off-site parking spaces in the application are no longer necessary, and a condition that requires a lot line adjustment to be done with the west boundary has also been deleted. If we go to the aerial bird's eye, you'll see on the 2-dimensional what's happening. You'll see the covered parking, the additional 5 parking spaces, and that those units that actually, the red tile roofs actually came out to about where the carport cover was, and you see how that's been pulled back. The 2-story units have been pulled back. Leave that one there. On the height issue with Veneto, the distance is about 78 feet to the closest 2-story unit, which would be to the rear, and 270 feet to the closest 2-story unit that is on the west. And if you could circle that.
That's the 2-story back.
Now the 2-story units that are to my left. Yeah. There were 2-story units where that pitched roof is. Those have been eliminated. There were 5 of those eliminated. You can see that those 2-story units that are the only ones that look east towards Veneto are actually screened from that new pitched roof element that's been added by the portico cochere. There are only 3 units now that look east towards Veneto. At one time, there were 9. And those 3 have a balcony, but again, those are views are blocked looking east because of that pitched roof tile element that's been added to the project. We think that this project, with its overall height, is compatible with surrounding properties. The specific plan allows 2-story or 24 feet. This complies with that. It's interesting to note that the bank building to the immediate west, which is now a Union Bank, is 11 feet clearance to the drive-through that's there, and to the top of that building is about 23.5 feet. So the height of this building is really no taller than the height of that building, which is a single-story building, but because of its mass and scale is at about 23.5 feet. Also, we think it's compatible with the mass and scale of Veneto. Veneto next door is a lot of mass and scale along Country Club's edge. I think this project actually even has less mass and scale than the Veneto project. With the reduction of those 4 units that were shown, the land coverage now is down to 27.1, and the second-story coverage, which is now down to 57.5. The code requires no more than 60%. The applicant agrees to the proposed development agreement, as I stated earlier, and agrees to the voluntary additional ambulance fee. We do agree that that should be reviewed over time. because we think that number that is now built into the development agreement is actually higher than what you'll find that's driven by this project. In closing, I'd like to thank you for your considerations this afternoon. We support the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings outlined in the staff report. And I ask that you approve the 4 items before you and allow the project to move forward. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, or Mr. Johnson's in the audience, and we'd be more than happy to address the City Council. Thank you.
This does address the concern on one of the residents that lived next door, that he was losing his view, and that was one of the other reasons that these units were taken out, if I remember correctly.
The reason for the reduction of the units was both views of the adjacent property, right. Particularly one gentleman.
Right.
Also, likewise, the concern about looking into, that's been eliminated with that one row of the second-story units being eliminated, and as I indicated, with that new pitched roof. There was also issue of mass and scale. I think the city just was concerned it was too many units, it was too massive. We tried to address that by reducing units, and the way the new architecture is, by stair-stepping that first level, now with a red tile roof, and then going back to a new second story, where before it was just the 1 and 2 stories were right on top of each other, with I would agree, was a very unattractive massing of that project.
Yeah. So. Well, they did a lot of major changes, too.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, there are a lot of changes. Any other questions?
Okay. Ted, any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, no other questions? All right, Richard, did you have a comment?
I just had a question of Greg. Greg, in regard to the letter which you received yesterday from the property, the HOA, have you addressed those issues that they raised?
Actually, those are the same issues that were discussed at the Planning Commission meeting. Okay. Similar topics. So I think the report addresses them.
Increased noise, are they concerned about the ambulance noise?
That was stated at the commission meeting. We pointed out that the way the system works is that, yes, if call-outs are made, the ambulance will be on site, but once they get on site, they have a policy to turn off the siren and then leave the site and then use the sirens off site. So as Mr. Pratt said, there's discussion on how many, and we've estimated how many call-outs will occur, but until the facility is open, we're just guessing at the number. So it may be that the Veneto project thinks the number is too high based on the number of units. The commission felt that it was a compatible use that may or may not have significant call-out requirements. So you're correct. It's kind of we're just using abstracts until the facility is open to determine what the call-out ratio actually is for the site.
Okay. So from your standpoint, all these issues that were raised in this letter have already been evaluated for the Planning Commission?
Yeah, actually the line of sight is correct. Noted in the staff report that the units that are adjacent to the pool area face Country Club, and those units on the opposite side of the building that Pat was referencing, he's correct. They raise the height of that adjacent pitched roof to 20, I think it was 21.6, in order to make sure that there are no views facing the Veneto project. So yes, that was the intent of the developer when he resubmitted the 51 unit request. So it's a drastic change from the 66 unit request. Correct? Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe public comments are still open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak at this time? Please come forward. Tell us who you are and where you reside. And make sure you speak into the microphone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Smotrich and honorable members of the City Council, my name is Bill Brodowski, and I'm a resident of Rancho Mirage. My wife Darlene and I own and reside in a home which is located at 12 Via Condati, which is in the Veneto development. In fact, our patio and our end of our bedroom are located about 20 feet from where this project's perimeter is. Actually, between our house and the project is the beginning or the end, whichever way you want to look at it, of the Butler-Adams Trail, which I'll talk about later. But the Butler-Adams Trail is what separates our house from this project. I think the council members are well aware that good planning really requires two things. One, that the use be a conforming use, and two, that it be compatible to the area to which the use is being placed. And I submit to you that this project fails on both of those counts. The applicant cannot build this project if he doesn't get an amendment to the specific plan for District 5 of the Highway 111 West specific plan. And I know that all of you are more familiar and knowledgeable on these areas than I am, so I feel a little foolish trying to preach to you relative to what I believe is the correct thing that should happen here. And rather than debate with staff as to what the merits or the non-meritorious position is relative to amending the specific plan, I would like to show you portions of the plan itself and go over them with you and show you why I do not believe that it would be meritorious to amend this specific plan. The specific plan is broken down into 7 districts. Each district takes into control or in account one specific area. It happens to be that District 5 is the area which is really related to the Trojan Financial Center Plaza, and it says that it's an office building use. And I'd like to, if I may, ma'am, have the right here to approach you all and pass out. I don't have the luxury of the screen, so I'll have to pass out a little package. They're stored up in this huge package.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve,
We can share.
The first document that I'd like to call your attention to is both the first and second document are taken from the specific plan. They're just, I had them blown up a little out of the specific plan. As I say, I don't know how to get myself set up to use these facilities. So looking at this document, which says permitted uses, it shows on the left, if you hold the document sideways, the 7 various district plans that are there. And if you look at number 5 down the chart, number 5 is an office use. And that is the plan that we are talking about, which is number 5 of the specific plan. Now, if you look at the very top of that column, it says all the things in black are permitted uses. All of the things that are just with a circle and blank are conditional use permit required, and things with a line through them are prohibited uses. Now, if you turn the document the other way, so it's looking down the column, you can look at number 5, the office building, and you can see that the first 7 uses are all non-permitted uses, with the exception of the daycare use. If you see that, it's the 4th item down in the column. Daycare has nothing in that circle, so therefore that shows on the chart that daycare could be a permitted use, which could be obtained through a conditional use permit. And if you look right above the daycare, which I think it's very important and we'll get to later, the area of congregant care housing. Congregant care housing is it's a prohibited use, and I think that becomes very important. Then it goes down the line and it shows you what are the things that can be used there. Clerical and legal, counseling services, financial, accounting, insurance, medical dental offices, professional services, public utility offices, and a real estate office, and lastly, a travel agency. Then if we go way down the column, there's a circle so probably 3/4 of the way down, you'll see there's one with nothing in it, and that blank is a laboratory for medical or dental firms, and that again would be something that could be obtained with the conditional use permit. Now I would like to call your attention to item number 2, which starts with the 5 offices on top, if you can see that in your packet. This comes from the specific plan itself, and this relates, this item 5, to what we are talking about, the land use concept for the Trojan Office Park. And if I can read that aloud, District 5 is zoned for office use. The district calls for high-quality, well-maintained office development and the expansion of existing use. Primary considerations are given to architectural compatibility with adjacent office building, the residential La Veneto development, and the provision of adequate landscaping. Then please see Exhibit 9. So it's right in the specific plan that this project has to be compatible with the office complex around it and with the Veneto project. Applicant made a very, what I consider, clever argument by saying that the use is not a non-permitted use, but the use of the facility for what his client wants, assisted living, is a use that was not in existence or not commonly used or known, so consequently was not listed on this plan, not because it wasn't wanted or wasn't intended, but it just wasn't around, so therefore it's not really a use that was not prohibited. And I call your attention to the 2 other exhibits that I had. After our last Planning Commission meeting, I went and did a little research, and what I've done is just taken the blank definitions out of congregate care and assisted living. And as we recall from the chart that we went through, congregate care is a prohibited use. Now, what is congregate care? The document that I left you with says that congregate care is similar to independent living. Residents of congregate care live independently for the most part. This type of housing environment usually offers at least 1 communal meal per day, and it's common for services and activities to be offered to residents. Independent living, on the other hand, typically offers only living quarters and limited services. Now, what is assisted living? Assisted living housing is a long-term senior care option that provides personal care, support services such as meals, medication management, bathing, dressing, and transportation. And I submit to you, folks, that the congregate care is a much lesser or lighter type of care provided than the assisted living care, just going from the 2 definitions of those types of care. So when the original plan was brought out, it's prohibited the congregate care facilities for being put into this zone. And I submit to you that the assisted living facility, maybe it's newer, but it is a more intense use of the facility than a congregate care facility. So consequently, if the congregate care facility would be prohibited, the assisted living facility should also be prohibited. Now, secondly, if we get by that, I personally don't think that one can get by there, but if you do, then we get to what is the actual thing on the office center. And I say that has to be compatible both to the living project and compatible to the existing, the existing office complex. And if you look at the office complex, it has a bank building. It's really a well-designed, very high-end office building set up basically with garden-type offices. I understand that they could put a 2-story office building behind this, between the Veneto, and that's perfectly fine with the residents of Veneto. We would much rather have an office building there as designed and as stated in the existing documentation than have a assisted living facility. So contrary to what applicant says, as neighbors, that would certainly be our preference. As far as the compatibility, having an office park as your next door neighbor pretty much assures the neighbors that their weekends are going to be quiet, dark, and mellow. Having an assisted living facility next door will probably assure that there will be lights and noise, and during the weekend and nights when visiting hours go on, it will certainly not be mellow there. So we think that that's a complete change in the character and in the use. As you're aware, and I think the issue's been raised and you're familiar with it, that the developer's paying a substantial amount of money for ambulance service, basically. And when ambulances come, fire engines usually come with them. When you get ambulances and fire engines next door, it's far different than having an office building. I heard the prior speaker say that the statistics are the office building can be just as high. We have lived there 8 years now, and myself nor none of our neighbors have ever seen an ambulance coming into that office project as it stands. I'm certain that that would not be the case if we had an assisted living facility next door. I know you all are familiar and remember that the city of Rancho Mirage has precluded any new two-story homes from being built in Rancho Mirage. And yet, by allowing this amendment, we would in effect be allowing a two-story living residence to be placed near or next to our homes, which we can no longer build or consider to be two-story homes. So I really think, in the view of fairness, it really creates an unfair situation that we can't build two-story homes in our complex anymore, and yet right next door to us, we can have two-story homes built with neighbors living on the second story next to us. I just don't think it's fair. Another thing that really isn't fair is what I call like changing the plan in midstream. Many of us have bought homes relying on what would be our neighbors and what would be the neighborhood that we live in. And I, for one, checked out, and it was an office building use. So we bought a home in that area with the understanding that we would be permitted to have an office building next as our neighbor. Had I known that there would have been some type of a care facility next door to me, I never would have bought the house. So I think as a matter of fairness, it's really hard to change the rules right in the middle of the game. And everyone that's relied on that, and I could use the term legally, detrimentally relied on it, is now left out in left field somewhere because the rules have changed in the middle of the game. And I just don't think it's a fairness issue. We used to have great views of the mountains, or we still have them, and I don't know what the effect of this will be. It'll impede our views. And that's our problem. I understand it, and it's not your concern. But Mr. Johnson at the Planning Commission stated, and he seems like a nice fellow, but he said that he and I were in my yard, and you can't see the project from there. And I think he misspoke when he said that. He had erected several pools so that we could see the heights of the project at several various places. And from the middle of my patio, you can certainly see the posts. And I assume, and I'm not an architect, but when you see the posts sitting there in your line of sight, I'm assured to myself that I'm going to see a building looking back at me when I look up there. So consequently, it's just another thing that, I just don't think it's fair. A new and separate issue that comes up is waste removal. If you have a project with 47 people living in a small area like that, you're going to have hard waste and you're going to have soft waste. As I understand it, this project will have food there for 3 meals a day. Well, feeding 47 people plus whoever else might be around is going to be a lot of meals. It's going to cause a lot of waste. Now, how do you dispose of that waste? I noticed that the waste facilities are moved toward the rear corner of their property, which is really right alongside, again, the Veneto property. So we're going to be very close to their waste removal, as is the mobile home park on the other side, Blue Skies. So I don't know what, whether there would be odor whether it'd be flies, whether the garbage trucks will be there and the noise or what they do, but they're going to be right close to our house. Consequently, you have a problem of waste, and when you talk about a compatible use, having an office building is not going to create the waste that having a facility that's going to be serving 3 meals a day there. So I think that's one other thing that's really bothersome. In short, we think there's going to be noise intrusion, visual intrusion, potential for odors and waste disposal problems, and certainly this complex is not compatible with our use or with the size or the design of the units next door, the other units for office space. So we don't think it's compatible, and we don't think that it's a use that should be allowed under the existing code. And amending the code this late in the date is just not fair to everyone that's relied on it. We talked briefly about that I live along the Butler-Adams Trail, and I don't know if all of you are familiar with the Butler-Adams Trail, but it's one of those little hidden amenities that Rancho Mirage is always so proud that it has. And every day, many people walk up and down the trail. The trail is both for horses and for dog lovers and walkers and just people wanting to walk. And it goes from Country Club to the Frank Sinatra Park, goes along Morningside and through the Wash. When I was a little younger, I used to do it every day. I don't anymore. But it was just a great space, and it's wonderful for the residents of Rancho Mirage. One of the big things is that there's a lot of empty parking places along the existing Trojan Center, and people park their cars there, and they walk along there every day. And I think the way the configuration of this project is, if that is built there, those folks will no longer be able to park their cars there, and I think a lot of people in this community will no longer be able to get the benefit from that trail. That's basically the problems that we have with the project as the neighbors. Another huge problem that I don't know if staff has overlooked or what, but this is the problem of ingress, egress, and traffic congestion. As you probably are aware, there are only 2 curb cuts for this whole project, not just for the project that's being presented, but for the whole Trojan Plaza Center, there are 2 curb cuts. One of those curb cuts is located on Highway 111, all the way west as far as you can go, and you can't make a left turn if you're coming east on 111. You can't get in through that entrance because it's across the side, and if the entrance has no turn lane coming into that project. So if one is to make a turn, and especially if you're coming down 111 and the traffic light changes and you go with the traffic light, cutting into that right lane and cutting into their driveway is kind of risky. I mean, I think I came close to a close call trying to do that, and I think over time it's just not going to be a good situation. And consequently, I don't think many people are going to use that entrance at all. It's going to be used for egress if one is going west from the project toward Cathedral City, then one would use that curb cut. And if you take that curb cut out of play, there's only one other curb cut to that whole project, which is about 30 or 40 feet down from my house from Country Club. Now that's a curb cut that goes in and would serve this entire project, which the staff has estimated that there's some 1,100 and some trips a day into that project. And you have one curb cut. It's not at a signal light, so you have no signal light. There is no stop sign. There is a turn lane, which that's coming from 111 to Country Club and into the project. There's one turn lane, which has about room for 3 and maybe 4 cars at the most. You're going to have traffic coming across that project. into there, and most of that traffic will be making that left-hand turn across Country Club into the project. And I really believe that if anyone has noticed that or looked at the area specifically, there is a lot of potential traffic problems with that. It's just there's nothing else you can do. You can't put more curb cuts in, and there's nothing really that you can do. So it's just going to be one big congestive traffic mess. And I live right next to it, and I certainly have concerns for it. When you try to weigh the benefits and the detriments of a project like this, the only benefit that I can really see is potentially to the Rancho Mirage is some extra revenue that it might get from the project, from the ambulance fees, I don't know what. The detriment is to everyone living there who's relied on the project being what it's going to be. It's changing. In deference, I think the applicant has made a very nice project. It really is a nice project he's designed. Unfortunately, I really believe that it's in the wrong location. It just doesn't fit into that neighborhood where we're at. And I want to thank you for your time. And in closing, I'd like to paraphrase a famous lawyer. If the project don't fit, you got to just let it sit. Thank you all. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Well, you certainly did a lot of research and did a great presentation bringing this forward. A lot of points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any? Okay, Mr. Brodowski is leaving the podium. Is there any further comments from the applicant?
Good afternoon, everybody. Ms. Mayor and
Can you
council
please
members.
introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Rick Johnson, P.O. Box 2130 here in Rancho Mirage. And I'd like to also, like Pat mentioned, thank the staff and all the help that we've received along the way here. We have done a lot. Maybe it would be appropriate just to talk a little bit about some of the points that were raised by Bill. And maybe no particular place to start. There are no, Greg can put it up there if we'd like to look at it, but there are no trash receptacles of any kind next to Viento. The only area where the trash is located is back in the northwest corner of the property, which is over adjacent to the trash receptacles for Trojan Plaza. So that's kind of how that evolved, that location over there. I'm not sure, most of you probably know, but maybe some of you don't. We are in the assisted living business. We have a beautiful facility in Palm Desert. We have many others planned around the state. We're very passionate about this. I'm not sure where Bill obtained the definitions of congregate care and assisted living, but they're not in any of this stuff that we have learned about the business. I think the other thing is, I don't know how many there are a year, but specific plan amendments are not as scarce as hen's teeth, as they say. I think the previous project that was before us was granted a specific plan amendment. Pat brought a good point up, and that is that it wasn't it was not something that we couldn't do in the definition of what was allowable and not allowable there on our site. But we met a couple of times over there. And Bill, I'd like to return the favor of he's a nice gentleman also. I would invite you, maybe he would be kind enough to allow you to go over to his home and take a look around. By what we understand, there's a unit that will be built in his own project between his home and Country Club. So I think there's more view issues in that arena than the view from ours. It is, if you're in his back area, you have to look back over this way. But I want to stay away from being argumentative at all. There were three ladies that were here. I think this is to the point of wanting to be good neighbors. There were three ladies from Blue Skies that were here at the Planning Commission meeting, and we made an appointment with them and went and met with all of them and addressed their concerns, and they're happy and supportive of the project. And maybe it would be appropriate to just answer any questions that you might have as we are kind of just kicking along here, maybe issues that may have come up in some of the things that Bill mentioned. It's a very quiet use. We have allowed for parking for our residents, but it's been our experience for the last several years that with the aging process, the way that it is, it makes a lot more sense to assume the worst, people driving their vehicles and stuff. So that's the reasoning behind our desire to limit vehicle usage at our facility. So there are places for them to park because there will be extra parking, but it's just an internal issue that we would like to restrict them from that. Trying to think of other issues. I didn't take any notes. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk. Pat did a great job. I know this is a sensitive issue. For years, that site has been vacant, as we all know. When Bill bought the project, I don't, it was portrayed that they came and bought a unit there. I guess my understanding from him, because I had a few meetings with him, was they bought the whole project and he picked one unit. That driveway approach was right there. We're going to generate less cars than the office building use that Pat mentioned. So if there are any, we don't feel that there are any traffic congestion issues, and if there are, in Bill's example, it's way less based on our use than an office use. And I think we all know, if we want to get into the history of the project, Greg pulled a lot of good data for us when we started the process in planning. And if you look at the conditions of approval of Viento, you'll see that they were made aware of, the developers, of the fact that there would be a two-story office building there, and to make them aware of view issues, traffic congestion issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that if anything, what we have accomplished through the whole process is we've delivered a more height-sensitive, view-sensitive, and traffic-sensitive project. And it hasn't been an easy process for us. I mean, we've had to hack units out. We put a lot of time and effort into it. We got a lot of good input from everybody. And we're still here, and we're happy to be working through the process. But I think we've delivered on the promise of the original developer to be below the requirements that were included in the approval of the Viento original development. And I know that we would all probably say that Viento would not be approved today, but it's pretty hard to, it was hard for me personally and a couple of my partners to swallow the concept of mass and scale when you're standing on the site and you're looking at Viento to the east and you're looking at what we're proposing and the phase-in of height being the same as the office building. It's hard to keep a straight face to the topic of mass and scale when you have such a looming project on the side of us. I feel, and I have felt this way from the start, and in some of the original discussions that I had with Bill, and he will attest to these, but I feel that there's some issue, maybe the issue of of the lack of their ability to create two-story on their project has turned them against us as maybe just stuck in the middle here. I know there's going to be a time when they're going to want to get some units approved. I spoke to several people at the HOA. I was at a couple of meetings over there. Everybody was very gentle and supportive of us. They appointed Bill as their representative. I sent all the new plans to the president of the HOA and had some dialogue with him a few months ago. And so we were really surprised when the letter came in. And it was signed by Bill, according to what we could see, that their position had changed. So Pat brought a good point up about, the use of medical. And, who am I to tell you about zoning and uses and occupancies and so on? But there's Pat and I reviewed the data that he collected on other office buildings in the city that are medical related uses, and there's a lot of cars, and I think the Blue Skies folks, when we had our first meeting with them about 3 years ago, they phrased the project that it was a quieter, softer use than what was proposed in the past. So anyway, if anyone has any questions, I'd sure love to talk some more.
Thank you so much. Any questions of Mr. Johnson from council? No questions? Okay, thank you so much. Well, the public hearing is now closed, as long as we have no more speakers. And I would like to just make a statement and go first, if that's okay with my fellow council members, because I really like the project. I like the architecture. I think it's very attractive. However, the proposed land use as a 2-story senior assisted living facility is not compatible with its surroundings. When the specific plan was prepared and adopted, the appropriate use designated was professional office. In fact, an office building was previously approved on this site some time ago, but was never constructed. Surrounding development occurred in reliance on this land use designation. The site is not physically suitable for a 2-story senior assisted living facility, but is suitable for office development. The proposed use would create noise, light, glare, odors, and traffic in excess of that which would be associated with a use developed in compliance with the existing land use designations. Noise and odors would occur from filling and emptying trash and recycling containers, much more so than if it was an office building. The trash and recycling containers are close to the Blue Skies project, and those residents on the other side of the wall pointed this out as being a significant impact. The size, height, and operating characteristics of the proposed use would be more intense than a single-story office building, which meets the existing allowable lot coverage. Hours of operation of the proposed use would be 24/7, 365 days per year, in contrast to an office development, which would have its primary activity Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The significantly increased hours of operation would significantly impact the surrounding uses. The proposed use is not consistent with the existing specific plan, as evidenced by the fact that the applicant needs a specific plan amendment in order to receive approval of the PDP. So because of these facts, I will not be able to approve this project. And I would like to make a motion to deny this project. Do I have a second?
No, I don't think there should. I think you should allow the other members of the council to speak before there's a motion.
Okay, if nobody wishes to make the motion, then we can go on with further discussion. And if there is a second, we can also go on with the discussion. So if there's no one that wishes to make a second, maybe someone would like to amend something or make their own motion.
Madam Mayor, I think there are a couple of issues here that are part of the development. One is the change of the specific plan, and one is the development itself. So if we're going to vote, I think rather than tie the whole thing together, maybe the first vote should be on the change in the specific plan, and then if that's approved, go on to the second part.
Okay.
That's item
That
number
is
3.
That is item number 3. And that would be a motion to approve ordinance number, pardon me, first in line for the first reading. And my motion would be to deny it, but how do you want to word this?
Well, the way I see it is that you have a specific plan amendment for item number 3, and if your recommendation is to deny it based upon the findings that you articulated, then that should be your motion. And then you would look for a second.
These are all very integral to one another. So it's really difficult to separate them. Because if you're opposed to any aspect of the specific plan amendment, then you can't approve any of these.
Right.
Okay. So
That's
then,
right. That's probably why the SPA should go first.
okay. So the plan amendment case number SPA 12001, based upon the content, findings, and conditions in the staff report.
Well, if you're recommending denial, it's
and
not
that-
based upon the findings in the staff report, because those are findings for approval. It would be based upon the findings that you articulated.
Well, then perhaps we might want to have somebody, if they would like to make a motion to approve of this, then we could take a vote on that perhaps, and if that does not pass,
Yeah, I think that since you made a motion to deny it, and due to the lack of a second, then that fails. And so you
No,
just
you're
open
just
the
in
floor
discussion.
for an alternative motion.
Yeah, there you go.
okay, so would someone like to make an alternative motion?
Or have
No,
a
I just
discussion.
think,
Or have a
no, I think
discussion?
there should be discussion.
Okay, why don't you start?
Then you can second the motion for purposes of discussion.
Okay.
Well, some-
Okay.
Either way.
Okay.
You
can do it either
way. Yeah, you don't need a second.
So, okay, Ted, why don't you start with?
If I may, what I was going to say is, Madam Mayor, I don't disagree with your position. I just felt that it's appropriate that the council members have the opportunity to express their views before such a motion is made. That's the whole idea of a city council, is to hear the position of your colleagues before certain motions are made. I actually feel, likewise, I think that the developer has done an excellent job. I think the plan is extremely attractive. He has shown great flexibility. The number of units has been reduced at our request. The number of parking spaces has been increased. The plan itself, I think, is very good. I think it would be a credit. I think there's a need for assisted living facilities in Rancho Mirage. However, I do not think this particular location is appropriate. I think part of the responsibility of the City Council is to preserve the quiet enjoyment of our residents. And I believe that this would not be compatible with maintaining that quiet enjoyment. I feel the residents of Veneto and Blue Skies would be adversely impacted. Therefore, I, for one, would not be in favor of a specific amendment that would allow the use of this facility.
Charlie, would you like
You
to
know,
say?
yes, I do. Maybe being new to all this, but what I don't understand, and I do agree with Ted, and I do agree with everything that Bill said, and everything that the developer has said, but I do lean to what Madam Mayor has said, and Ted has said. But my question is, what comes first, the horse or the buggy? In other words, why did this not come before all this work that this developer and all the money that was put into this and all the effort for over how many years? 3 years to do this. Why didn't they come first and say, will you change this zoning? I know Pat did make a point that some of this stuff goes back to 1990. Doesn't mean that things cannot be changed. But I still, if I were going to do this, I certainly would come first and say, can I do this, guys? Here's what I'm planning to do. So just as a point of information, it seemed to me like this was all backwards and a lot of waste, a lot of time, a lot of money and effort.
Well, I think Randy can answer that for us.
Well, Councilman, the municipal code requires a developer to submit a development project when they come in with a plan amendment or a zoning amendment, because that way the city council can know what project they're proposing without just changing the code and then coming back with a project and saying, well, my project meets your code, your zoning requirement. So that's why a project is required to be submitted with an amendment application. And yes, he spent a lot of time on it, but by the same token, this is the entitlement process. This is the public hearing where the project is approved or denied. So regardless of the amount of time they spent or money that they spent on it, he understands that this is where it's either approved or denied.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because I did not understand, why it seemed to me like it was backwards, but now I understand, so thank you.
Okay, thank you for your inquiry. Okay, Richard or Dana, do you have any comments? Dana?
I just don't think this is an appropriate location for the project. I like the project. I like it someplace else. I like it where there are other similar communities nearby. I think Mr. Brodowski delineated a number of the issues that I subscribe to in feeling that this is simply not the locale for this project. And in response to Mr. Townsend's comments, Charlie, it's just the law. We're following the law in following this process. We don't have a choice on it. Somebody came to us and said, I'd like to put a project here, maybe even identify the project, that the council would say, well, we don't know if we'll rezone it because we don't have the details on your project. And the worst part about this is the point you make.
Yeah.
Is that Mr. Johnson and Mr. Pratt have been involved with this project for a long time, and it has moved forward with change after change because it was an attempt by staff and by the subcommittee to see if we couldn't find a way that made it compatible to the area. We looked at a variety of things. Mr. Johnson was extremely cooperative and amenable to making the changes that were discussed. But when it comes down to the bottom line, it seems to me that this is just incompatible for this particular piece of land. And from a parliamentary perspective, Madam Chairman, I would suggest that the question be, does anybody move adoption of any part of this? And if there is no adoption, no motion in favor of it, and we've heard now from, well, 3 of us have committed ourselves on it. I'm not sure that Charlie's committed himself, and I don't think Richard has. But if nobody makes a motion, I suspect that the motion would die for lack of a second. But, Mr. City Attorney, can you do that in this situation?
Here, I think because we're dealing with the land use entitlement, which is a property right, I think the best thing to do from the city's perspective is to make a final decision based on findings. So it will be over with.
So
we need a
would be
final
motion
decision.
Not to, for example, the motion would be something to the effect that the council not vote to approve specific plan amendment.
Yeah, I would suggest that the council, if there's a majority who's inclined to do this, to reject all 4 recommendations of the staff's recommendations based on the findings stated by the mayor.
based on the findings stated by the mayor and the council members, but you still haven't heard Councilman Kite speak yet.
Yes.
Steve, I don't quite understand the proposal here of doing 4 rather than just turning down the specific plan change.
Well,
It has to be with findings to make it solid.
Okay.
I mean, technically, you could turn down the specific plan amendment based on the findings articulated by your fellow council members, and then you wouldn't take action. You wouldn't need to take action on the rest of the items because
Right.
the use isn't allowed. But I feel, as Steve does, that all 4 of these should probably have an action taken on them.
Okay.
And I suppose some of those findings could be made,
For all of them.
or all the findings could be made based upon everything we have said, everything we've heard. I would, if I were making the motion, I'd adopt each of the statements of fact made by Mr. Brodowski as being part of the findings on which I would rely as well.
Okay.
Okay. Richard, would you like to make a comment too?
Yes, thank you. About 2 years ago, we started looking at this project, or maybe even further back than that. Dana and I have been on the subcommittee, and we've probably met half a dozen times at least with the developer and with his representative, tried to work through this project. And Charlie, you're right. I mean, how can you ask somebody to spend an awful lot of money and get to this point and then turn their project down? I think the process is something that we have to look at all the way along the road, and we changed the direction of the project, or we changed the look of the project by going back to the developer and saying, this is what we think will work, or this won't work. And it's, when I really got down to it, it's a great project. I love the design. I think it's a well thought out plan. And then you get down to, is it in the right place? And I think Ted asked that same question. You love the project, but it is in the right place. And I look at the changes that we're going through on 111, and it's, I really haven't made up my mind whether it is the right place or not. I think I don't even know if Viento belongs in that location. I mean, maybe when that was approved, it should have never been approved for there. But we're at the point now where we've got to make a decision and give the developer some direction. And I think I agree with my colleagues that it's an excellent design, but we got to find something else for that particular location.
Well, I think my question was answered by everybody here, and I think also this question will be answered by anybody that's watching this on television, why it came to this, all this work done to what my question was, and you guys answered it. So now I understand, and I hope it opens the doors to other people that understand doing projects, what they're facing, and the steps that they do have to go through. Unfortunately, this is not going to be the right one. Thank you.
We can do these all in one, couldn't we?
Okay. Yeah.
Let her do what she wanted to make the motion.
Okay. Okay. Charlie, I appreciate your inquiry.
Thank you.
Because I think we all feel that way. We've seen
Sure.
Mr. Johnson and we've seen Mr. Pratt come to us and try to work this out, and they've done an incredible job.
My heart just goes out to them. It really does.
But
Really.
I think that we
Terrible.
can all take a little bit of comfort in the fact that this city, Rancho Mirage, has got apparently and approximately 113 acres available for development. And because we all seem to feel that this is not the right location for this project, we all really like this project, and we'd all like to see this project somewhere in our city if possible. So I don't think it was a waste of your time. I don't think it was a waste of your money. And I think your tenacity and your experience and your ability to get things accomplished, hopefully you'll come back to us and perhaps put this in another location where we can all enjoy it.
Just make the motion.
So why don't we go ahead with the motion? Dana, would you like to?
Well, no, you wanted to make the motion. Well, just make the motion. He'll feed it to you.
Okay, so we will go ahead. I will move that we reject or deny all 4 of the recommendations of staff.
Based on
And-
the findings you read into the record.
And those are based on the findings that were read by me into the record.
As well as your fellow council members and Mr. Brodowski.
Right. Okay, everyone understands that?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Okay, now I don't know if that's misleading or not, the fact that we all voted yes.
Motion passes.
So the motion passed, and so that the motion was to deny, just so it's clear to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion passed. Thank you so much, and thank you all for your comments.
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
He's a wonderful fellow, too.
I believe we are
We have
now...
one more item.
We have one more item. Okay, that is action item number 9, and this is establish and implement a city... number 8. Sorry about that. Approval of the fiscal year 2014-2015 expenditure budget plans for the Citizens Option for Public Safety, COPS Fund. Okay, and this will be handled by
Me.
Kim Malcolm Valenti, our Administrative Services Director.
Thank you, Mayor Smotrich. Members of the council, this is an annual exercise that we do in order to receive funding from the state. This year, we've been notified that we will receive our $100,000. It's already been programmed into Fund 102 for fiscal year 14-15. Of the $100,000, $85,000 is spent towards our portion of the forensic tech, one of the CSOs, and in equipment, we are budgeting $15,000 per the request of the sheriff and the school, Rancho Mirage High School, to purchase a Segway vehicle for the school resource officer. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Of
Is the
council?
expenditure, do we pay out the money and we then receive it back, or does the money come in?
It's drawn down.
Draw down. Good. Sounds like an easy proposition.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay. would
Move
someone-
adoption of, that the city council adopt fiscal year 2014-2015 expenditure budget plan for the Citizens Option for Public Safety Fund in the amount of $100,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, everyone please cast your vote again. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Steve, I believe it is up to you to fill us in on our closed session.
The City Council and Housing Authority Board will now recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 to discuss the existing litigation known as Veronica Juarez et al. Versus City of Rancho Mirage.
Okay, thank you. We will adjourn now and welcome to our next City Council meeting, and we look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.